going live. Hey, what is going on? Luke Hart here. Welcome to the live stream, or if you are catching this on the replay, welcome to the after party. If you're new to this channel, I create weekly D&D videos with information and resources to help dungeon masters run awesome games. Now, we got one person on right now, probably my wife. So what I want to do first is just give you guys an idea of what we will be doing in this program. I have 4 segments kind of planned for this. In the first segment, which is the segment right now, we're going to be talking about a couple Facebook questions of the day. These are, so occasionally when I'm on Facebook, I come upon these really awesome posts that just got to be talked about. Some of these posts are very interesting for one reason or another. And so we're going to look at a couple of these posts. That's going to happen now in the second segment, which is going to start around 8:30 if you're catching it live, or that's at the roughly the 30-minute mark. We're going to talk about alignment. Which I think I've seen quite a few videos on YouTube recently about alignment. So it appears to be one of those things that is kind of making its rounds right now. So we might as well jump on that bandwagon and talk about it as well. And at 9 o'clock, if you're live, or the 1 hour mark, we are going to be doing a monster makeover. I want to take a look at we're going to pick a monster from the monster manual, and we are going to make it better. I think one of the things I notice a lot of times, at least in 5th edition, some of these monsters are kind of like blah. So we're going to try to make it a little bit better for us all. And then at 9:30, which is a 1 hour and 30-minute mark, we are going to be looking at NPC creation. What I want to do is we're going to create an NPC together. So we'll look at like personality traits, flaws, and stuff like that. We might even take a stab at developing a voice for the NPC. And stuff like that. We might even take a stab at developing a voice for the NPC, which means I'll probably talk in a weird voice for us all. And I will, if you're catching this on the replay, down in the description, I will put like timestamps to roughly where these things all take place so that you can jump ahead really quick. So it looks like we got 2 people on. If you go ahead and give me a shout out, something down in the comments so I know who all we got going on here, that would be awesome. Like a roll call would be sweet. Three people. Where's the roll call? Brandon Doodley. Hey, what's up, dude? How you doing, man? Thanks for joining us on the live stream. Good to see you, man. And who else we got? Where's the roll call? Hello from Maine. Sweet, dude. Maine. I've never been to Maine. The closest I have been to Maine has been New York, like the state and the city. That's pretty close. So, hey, Josh, what's going on, dude? Good to see you, man. I'm glad you could make it. Awesome, awesome. Princess K, what's going on, Princess K? Princess Canuta is, oh wow, she's getting edgy already. Hello, all right, Dudley. Okay, sorry, man, Dudley. Yeah, my English pronunciation skills are somewhat lacking. So, anyway, what do we got going on today? So, guys, I just want to give a quick little. What we're gonna do here is I'm gonna talk about some Facebook questions. And then we're going to talk, there's going to be a Q&A. So for you guys who, I know last time we did this Q&A, and what ended up happening is people were throwing questions all throughout the chat. And then I was like trying to scroll back feverishly, trying to find the questions and answer them. And I couldn't find half of them. And I know one guy like reposted the question like tons of times before I finally saw it. So what we're going to do tonight is hold your questions until I actually call for them, because we're actually going to have specific parts where I will just ask for questions and then I'll answer questions. So hold those until we get to that part, if you would. That way I don't have to scroll quite so much through the video to answer those. If you don't mind too, if you want to share this video somewhere, like it could be Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, wherever, just to get some folks over here so we can have an awesome little talk about stuff, that'd be awesome. So now, I want to look at the very first Facebook question that I'm going to take a look at here. It's down in the description if you want to take a look at it. It's in a closed group. I think this is from the D&D DMs only or something like that Facebook group. And let me see. Yes, D&D DMs only. It is the first one down in the description if you take a look down there. And it reads PC doesn't like water, if you got that down in the description. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read this question off to you guys, and we're going to talk about this question. I found this to be kind of interesting. Stand by. All right, so this guy on Facebook asked, or he said, one of my players has a character that gets seasick on ships and such. He's a noble. How do you get him on a ship when most of the world is water and can't venture anywhere without a ship ride? All right, so it sounds like he is running a campaign in a world where it is mostly water. Hey, Paul, what is going on? That definitely works. Definitely works. Welcome to the live stream, man. So this dude, we'll just call him, I mean, you guys, I linked it down below if you can get in the group. His name's Mitchell or whatever. So if you're on, dude, cool, welcome. This dude is apparently running a campaign in a world that's mostly water, like a water world type thing. And one of his players is afraid of water and gets seasick. And so Mitchell is asking, you know, what can I do to try to get him on ships and whatnot? And I mean, there's lots of people that are giving responses and whatnot. And here's the thing. This is how let me know too, by the way, ideas you guys have for how you would deal with this in your games. Totally cool. The way I would tend to deal with this sort of thing is I don't think it is on the dungeon master to try to convince or compel your players to actually, or compel their PCs to actually go on adventures and do things in your world. I think that's on your players. Your players are the ones that, the dude knew, right? It's like, we're going to be running a game and it's mostly a water world. So like everywhere you had to travel on ships. And so the player is like, okay, I'm going to create a guy who is afraid of ships. I mean, that's totally cool. But then, you know, when he doesn't want to get on a ship to go somewhere, the DM's like, oh, I got to somehow try to convince him to get on a ship. And how am I going to trick him or something? No, the DM shouldn't have to do that. That is on the player. That's totally on the player. He decided to create a character with that flaw, right? In a world that he knew was going to be set in the water, right? So it's not the DM that has to convince him to do it. The player needs to come up with a compelling reason to overcome his fear and go traveling anyway. So this is the sort of thing that I would just immediately put right back on the player and say, listen, man, this is the character you created. You knew it was a water world. You need to come up with a reason that you're going to do it. Perhaps this guy was a noble, so perhaps your king, the guy you swore fealty to, is telling you that you must go do this thing. Or perhaps I don't, doesn't matter. We can come up with a million ideas, right, of why you would do it. But I would put this totally back on the player. I would not sit here as a DM trying to think of ways to trick him on a ship. I think that is you're just going to spin your wheels and put it on the player. And you know what? If at the end of the day, he's like, I don't think my character would do that. I think he just wouldn't do it. Well, at that point, I think that's where, as a dungeon master, you say, okay, let's take this back to the drawing board. And you roll up a new character that is willing to adventure in this world. So we got some chat over here. Let's see what people are saying. Brandon says, I had a similar issue once. The rest of the players left his character behind, which resulted in him having to make a new character. That's interesting, dude. I mean, what can you give me some more information about the circumstances? Like, why did everybody leave him behind? I mean, was he just doing something, or like he didn't want to go with them, or whatever it was? That's cool. I've had a couple times in my games where similar things have happened, where like one of the players is like, you know, thinking of staying behind or going off and doing something else. And it's never quite happened. This is also like something I've thought about, like when I'm running conventions and stuff, you know, like what if like I have a convention game planned out and there's a certain stuff that's going to happen, you know, and one of the players, he's like, I'm just going to go off and do something crazy. You know, how would I deal with that? You know, and I have thoughts of how I would deal with that too. All right, let's see what we got going on here. Sleeping Shaman. What's going on, Sleeping Shaman? Two options. Good old Charlie Darwin, or get Mage Wizard Alchemist to invent Dramamine. All right, cool. I don't know what the first option exactly means, but Dramamine, I think, probably keeps you from getting seasick. I'm going to guess. I'm not a doctor. Yeah, absolutely, Paul. I totally agree with you, dude. Too much creativity can derail the game. Like, you're creating it's it's a water-based campaign and your dude's afraid of water. Now, either you can use that as an interesting thing to role play, right? To introduce something cool into the game where you're always afraid of it, but you are overcoming your fears. But if it's such a point that you can't even go on adventures, yeah, that's pushing it too far. Absolutely. So, we got 4 folks on. Give me a shout out. Let's see. We got Josh, I think, on. Princess K's probably on. We got Paul. We got Brandon. Sleeping Shaman. Sweet. This is interesting. The last time I went live, it was on a Friday night, and we were hopping pretty quickly. And now we're doing it on a Saturday night, and it doesn't appear to be quite as hopping, which is interesting. I wonder, and maybe you guys have more experience with live streams than I do. I wonder if there's a thing where like certain nights are better than others. I'm sure there is, but that's interesting. We're going to move on to our next Facebook question. And by the way, as we're going through and doing these things, guys, for me, it's already Sunday. Dude, you must be in like Europe or something, man, right? Let me, if you don't mind sharing, I mean, if you don't want to tell me, that's cool, right? But I'm just curious, Sleeping Shaman, if you're like in Europe or something, that's pretty cool, man. Or is it like early morning or something? It's like 2 a.m. or something crazy, man. That's nuts, man. All right, let's see. Brandon said some more information about this. He says, the character in question kept refusing to go to the aid of a dwarven lord that the other players wanted to help because the character was claustrophobic. He took it way too far, and the rest of the group got sick of it and just left him behind and went to help the dwarven lord. That's awesome. He deserves it. I mean, he deserves it. Like, he needs to get on board, right? I mean, you guys, this is something I think that comes up a lot, or is an interesting thing to think about. There is a point where like there's a story and you're role playing, right? And there's what would my character do, but there's also the other side of things, which is it's a game, right? So there needs to be a balance here, right? And the dude who refused to help that dwarven lord is like way too far on the side, possibly, I don't know, of role playing, right? But you got to bring it back to say this is a game, right? It's a group game where we all go together usually and do things, right? And so, yeah, there's got to be a balance there. Central Europe, Poland, Roclaw, to be precise. I probably mispronounced that. I apologize, dude. That's cool. Thanks for joining us, man. It's probably really early. It's like 2 a.m. or something for you guys over there. I know I got a friend. So my friend, Mr. Trask, he runs another channel here too, reviewing like D&D products. He is in, what did he tell me? I think he's in Denmark, I think. And it's like 2 a.m. for him because he was like, he's like, oh, what time's your live stream? And I told him the time, and then we translated it to like his time. And he's like, well, that's really early in the morning, dude. I don't know if I can do that. So, all right, let's move on to our next Facebook post here. Oh, so Brandon says the player was okay with it in the end and ended up making a dwarf that they met at the stronghold. And he played that character for 4 years, once per week. Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's really cool. So I think so he probably got the hint that I need to make a character that will actually go along with some of this stuff, which is reasonable. I think that's kind of a base assumption I think that we can often have as DMs, where we're like, okay, just create PCs, guys, and we just assume that people are going to make up player characters that are going to just go along with the adventures. But it's an important point for players to make up characters that have a reason to adventure with the group, that have a reason to do these things. And that's the sort of thing that you would typically address in like a session 0 or something like that. If you have those, which I've never had one. I probably should, but when I got into 5th edition and stuff, I just grabbed some people and we started running. And then as I got a little bit better at it and stuff, I was like, oh, that session 0, that's probably a good idea. So anyway, it's always good to have characters that are going to travel along with everybody. All right, sweet. Let's move on to our next one. The next one, down in the description, I put a link to it. It's called Flying PCs. Now, this is an interesting Facebook post. So this is an example, and when I run across these posts, and I'm picking on Facebook because I find these a lot on Facebook, but this can happen anywhere, right? I'm not being mean to Facebook, right? Just because I'm on YouTube right now. But you'll have a dungeon master, or it could be a player, it could be anybody, and they present a question and they say, hey guys, this is what's going on. This is the problem in my group. And then they tell you, I know that I could do X thing to fix it. And they detail pretty precisely a very good solution for the problem. But then they say, I don't want to do that because of X. So it's like knowing that your tires are flat on your car and not wanting to inflate them or get new tires because you have glass in your driveway, or I don't know. That's a bad example on the fly. But the point is this person knew the answer to the problem, but didn't want to implement that answer. And so he was pinging people for like crazy workarounds and different things you could do to fix it. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to try to read it. I got to get a drink here. My mouth is getting dry and stuff. And then I will read it to you. By the way, so I have a new coffee cup today. I noticed in the last live stream that like my coffee cups had something written across here. And like, I think you guys were trying to guess what it was or something. And then at one point somebody like posted what my coffee cup said down in the chat. And then a long time later, I read it and it said, Daddy is loved. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? So anyway, today I have a new one. These are stormtroopers. I just, in case you didn't notice that. All right, let us and once we take a look at this question here, we're going to be going into a little bit of Q&A too. So if you got questions and stuff, it could be anything. I don't really care. It could be about Dungeons and Dragons obviously would be on topic. But if you want to ask me how many cats I have, I guess you could do that if you wanted to. But if you got questions, keep them in mind. I'm going to do a question call in just a little bit here. So let's look at this post, flying PCs. It says, okay, so flying PCs, combat balance, but also role play. Makes any get across the ravine or climb this mountain missions laughable. Yes, agreed. Everybody can fly. This presumes that everybody can fly in a group. So maybe they're all Arakakras or they're all tieflings, the variant tiefling that can have wings. If all your characters can fly, the whole game changes in a certain way, especially if you're outdoors. If you're outdoors, the whole game changes. So let me continue reading the question. I don't want to just put in long-range magic into each encounter, and it's not as much of an issue in tight spaces or underground. One has a theoretical build of a Arakakra, sharpshooter, arcane archer. It basically turns any engagement out in the open into a slaughter where the bird is flying 600 feet in the air doing obscene damage with no way to shoot him down. I like to give my players full access to all official published races, so banning them isn't an option. And completely omitting open-air combat sort of negates their character build choices. So I can appreciate like where this dude's heart is. I mean, he wants his players to have these options available to them, but he is now experiencing the problems when you have an entire party of everybody that can fly. First of all, they can all fly, and most of the enemies in this book cannot fly, right? There's a small percentage of monsters in this book or others that can actually fly. That means that out in the open, if they come across marauding orcs, what are they going to do? They're going to sit up super high and just ping them to death, right? And the orcs, I guess the orcs could take cover or something, right? But it changes the dynamics of every encounter when the players can fly and the monsters cannot fly. And that's out in the open. Now, imagine if you're in a castle, even assaulting a castle, right? The battlements and stuff all out in the open, so you can assault those. The only time when you're on a little bit more of level playing ground is when you're running in dungeons or indoors. And obviously things change then. The flying is less effective, especially considering that many ceilings are maybe about 10 feet tall. In that case, flying isn't such a big deal. But imagine the dynamics change too if you have a dungeon where, like, for instance, a beholder's lair. Beholders, when they create their lairs, they often have vertical like tunnels going up. If everybody can fly, there's no challenge in getting past that. And so the entire dynamic definitely changes when you have all PCs that can fly. And I still haven't really talked about his question. I'm just kind of rambling about the dynamics of stuff, but we'll get to that in a second. So what was I going to say about this? So he knows the problem, and he doesn't really want to make a solution to it, which is to limit the number of players that can fly. So in my games, the way I do this is I just have a flat rule. I say, look at guys, I only allow one character to have the innate ability to fly. So one of you can have wings, and that's cool, But after that, like no more wings, unless you're a wizard and you can cast fly and stuff like that. Especially at level 1. Flying at level 1 is insanely powerful. Very, very, very powerful. So I just put a limit on that. I say, guys, we gotta balance your ability to choose, have freedom in creating your characters. We gotta balance that with gameplay. And that's what I do. But the real thing that's kind of, and my friend John and I, where I wonder if he's on. Are you on, John? Are you on here? I thought you were going to join us. Oh man, my top chat's gone. Oh, there it is. If you're on, John, give me a something here. But anyway, the point is that John and I, like at work, we saw this post and we were like laughing over our cubes about it. And because the annoyance is that, you know, in a certain way, he knows the answer and he doesn't want to implement it. He wants to go to like some workaround, some crazy convoluted workaround. Basically, as a dungeon master, he wants to reinvent the game in a way and do a whole bunch of different things to make up for the crazy advantage that the players all have in being able to fly. And so that's kind of what makes this a little bit of an annoyance, honestly. But you know, I can appreciate his heart. He wants to give his players like options and stuff. But there we go. We got that guy. Our next segment. We're not on the next segment yet, but we're going to talk about flying PCs. So, no, we're not. We just talked about flying PCs. I can't read my notes. We're going to do Q&A. All right. So now is the chance. If you guys have questions and stuff, hit me up with questions. Please put #question, all caps, when you throw this in the chat so that I can pick them out. So go ahead and throw questions in here. I will answer stuff. We'll talk about stuff for a little bit here. We'll get you rolling on that, and I will drink some more coffee. Paul says, I have a flying PC right now, but she's the cleric too. Goddess of love, Loviatar. Loviatar is the goddess of pain, I thought. So she's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm not understanding properly. But it's not a big combat character, so maybe that makes a difference, but not trying to exploit either. So, though I'm the only flyer too. Okay, yeah, if you only have one flying character, then I don't think it's a big deal. You're probably not going to have too many problems, right, with flying characters. Brandon says if you have a good group, they can deal with these issues without the DM having to make a ruling. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. Oh, she sees her as a goddess of love. That's awesome. Be interested in how that works out at the table. I had what did I have? I had one of my players recently was I forget what he was. I think he might have been a paladin or something, but he worshipped, I think it was Loviatar, and he role played. This guy's a great role player. Kevin is the dude in question. He's a phenomenal role player, and he was role playing this character as enjoying pain, and that's why he worshipped that goddess, right? And so it would frequently happen. They'd be talking about things. They'd be talking with an NPC or with monsters or something, and the monsters would maybe threaten them, you know, with torture. I don't know, whatever. And he would be role playing it so well. He'd get all excited about the possibility of like pain and stuff. And great role playing. It's really well done. He's playing a halfling barbarian druid right now. Doing really well with that. It's really cool. Hey, ICSPPS. I don't know how to pronounce that. Ixips. What's up, dude? How's it going? Good to see you here, man. I'm gonna scroll back here. If you guys got questions, drop some questions in. I know last time when we did the live stream, we had lots of questions from lots of people, and I didn't answer everybody's questions. So I want to make sure that we get to people's questions today. So here is your chance to throw some stuff out here. We're going to be talking about alignment a little bit later. In our second segment, we'll be talking about alignment. And we're also going to be taking a monster. You guys are going to help me choose a monster out of the monster manual. And we're going to look at ways we can improve it. And then we're going to create an NPC together. So just some cool things we got coming up. That's in segment 2, which is going to start here in just a little bit. We are going to be looking at alignment. So if we don't have any questions, I can just sit here and stare at the camera until we get questions. That'd be pretty dumb, wouldn't it? Are you still on here, Josh? Are you still with us, buddy? I'm gonna see see he's still on here. Josh is my he's my moderator over on my Discord server. We actually have a really cool discussion going on right now in our Discord server. I made a special channel over there called, what did I call that thing? Standby. Called the Kobold Lair over on my Discord channel. And what we're currently doing there is we are creating an adventure, a level 20 adventure for level 20 PCs. And we are starting with we're using kobolds. We're starting with the assumption that we have 20 kobolds and 20 kobolds only in this dungeon. And they're normal, like CR 1/4 or 1/8 kobolds or whatever it happens to be. And we aren't buffing them or anything. And we're trying to create an adventure that is challenging for level 20 characters using little itty bitty kobolds. And so obviously we're using traps and a bunch of other cool stuff. Well, this is interesting. My top chat just goes. All right. Hey, I see a question from Ipsips. I'll get you in a second. So anyway, thanks for the question. I will get to you. Anyway, over at my Discord, we are creating an adventure basically, and so far we have lots of great ideas. One of the guys leading the whole discussion, I want to give him a quick shout out. He's doing an awesome job creating some like Fortuna. I don't know what his like YouTube username is or whatever, but he has just got some crazy awesome stuff going on over there. So if you guys want to get in on that, there is down in the description, there is a link to my Discord server. You guys can hop on over there. We talk about lots of different things about Dungeons and Dragons. And we also just, get advice from each other and ask questions and whatnot. So you're all welcome to join us over there. Absolutely. We'd love to have you. We got quite a few people on there now. So it's pretty cool. So let's see. We got a question here. Oh, we got a couple questions. Awesome. All right. We'll get Ips. Dude, I'm killing your name, and I'm just kind of making fun of the fact that I can't pronounce your name. So I hope that's not offensive. I'm just being myself. All right. How do you deal with disengaged players? I have one player who seems apathetic about the game. He's there because we're all friends, but he only speaks up when it's his turn. And he ignores he ignores social stuff. He's only there because we're all friends. I mean, yeah, that is something that is pretty common, I think, when you have players in your group that are friends. They're going to be there because they just want to hang out as friends. Their primary motivation is because you're all friends and they just want to get out. If you weren't playing D&D, if you were playing poker or you were watching TV or playing some other board game, they would probably be equally happy because the only real reason they're there is to hang out with friends. And so I think it's probably going to happen, right, I think it's normal to have some players that just are like, well, whatever, I don't really care about the game really. I'm mostly there to hang out with you all. And so I don't know how I would deal with that, to be honest with you. I'm kind of spitballing here, but every time I have been a dungeon master, in high school I started with friends, but besides high school, and even in high school, I pinged my friends and saw who actually wanted to play D&D. But after that, all of my players have been strangers that I didn't know before playing D&D. And the one unifying thing that we had was Dungeons and Dragons. That's why we got together. And now afterwards we became friends, right? But originally we just want to play D&D. And so most of my players have all been pretty engaged in it. So, I mean, I think it could probably start with a conversation. I would just talk to him and be like, hey dude, are you having fun with the game? Is there anything that could be done differently to make this more fun for you? Like, I get that you like hanging out with us and stuff. But you seem kind of like distant or disengaged, disengaged. I don't know what the word is there in the game. Is there anything that I can do as a dungeon master to make this more fun from you? It's possible that there are certain elements of the game that he does enjoy, like it might be combat or something like that. And if you put a little bit more of that in there, make it more fun for him. I would just talk with him and just say, hey dude, what's up? Is there anything I can do? And he might have the answer for you. He might tell you, yeah, I don't like social interaction stuff, but I love combat. So if you put more combat in there, then I would like that. Now, there's a balance there, right? Because you have 4 or 5 players in your game. And so you can't shift your entire balance of your game over to something that will engage one of your players, right? You need to build a game around elements that appeal to everybody. But if you know that he likes a certain thing, then you can try to make sure that there's enough of that to keep him engaged. So I think that's my advice. I would talk to him and see what he likes and then try to put more of that in the game. Maybe some other people got some better advice. I just never had to deal with that, So experientially, I don't have a whole lot there's lots of things I have dealt with in the game that I can talk about, but this one is one of those things I'm like, this is what I think would work. So you can try that. All right. I think we got some more questions over here. Awesome. If you guys got questions, go ahead and drop #question all caps and throw a question in here and we will get to some questions. Oh, Princess K. Uh-oh. She's got a question. I will get to you, Princess K. Oh, by the way, Princess Canuta is one of my patrons over on Patreon. So I just want to thank you, Princess K, for being my patron. I do appreciate that. She tosses me some money every month, so she gets a special shout out. And Paul's got a question. It's a statement, really. I like the alignment system. Biggest problem is when peeps think of evil characters as 2-year-olds with impulse control problems, though maybe it's kind of the same with lawful good. Okay, so people that are trying to role play evil characters and they impulsively do things. Yeah, I get you. I get what you're saying. Continued. With lawful good characters, paladins usually being dogmatic and not trying to be diplomatic or doing any give and take. Yeah, absolutely. I think that is definitely, and we're going to get into alignment in the segment is starting right now, actually, but we're going to get into alignment a little bit, but I totally agree with you. I think that lawful good that's where we get the phrase lawful stupid. Okay. Now here's the thing. Lawful good doesn't have to be played lawful stupid. You can play lawful good without annoying everybody else at your game table. You could absolutely do it. One of my players did it. And actually, once we get to alignment, I'm going to give the example of how he did this. He played lawful good, and he wasn't lawful stupid. Well, he was a little stupid about how he role-played it. But this is my player, Kevin, again. Again, great role player. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But the evil thing, yeah, I agree. Sometimes people think, I can just be evil, so I'll just go around just stabbing random people. And it's totally not realistic. There are lots of evil people in this world. And many of them are very calculating, right? Because if you're a bad person, okay, even think about it in the world we have today. Think of criminals and stuff. There's one thing that most bad people don't want, and that's to get caught, right? Most people don't want to get caught. Now, some do, obviously, but the rule is most don't want to get caught. So if you're a bad person and you want to do bad things, you don't want to get caught, it's not going to be like impulsively random. You're not going to go around just stabbing random shopkeepers, right? Because that's probably not going to work in your best benefit. Eventually they're going to find you or something. So I don't know. I think there is a way, and I have an example of a player who played lawful evil in one of my games, and he did a great job of playing lawful evil. This is Greg. He's no longer in my games, but he was a great role player too. And it's kind of unfortunate he's no longer with us, but he did an amazing job of playing lawful evil in a good group, right? And it was great. It was great. Usually I don't allow evil in my groups, but this dude, he had it, man, and it was great. But we'll get to that in a second. Let's see. I had asked another question. Princess Carnuta had a question. Let's get to Princess Carnuta's question, and then we will move into our next segment. Looks like we got 7 people on. That's pretty cool. At the very beginning when we had like 4, I was like, oh man, I need more people. But that's cool. We got 7 now. That's awesome. By the way, guys, if you want to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you like it so far, that'd be great. Also, if you want to share this on social media like Twitter, Facebook, and crap like that, just to get some folks over here so we can liven up our discussion. Later on, we're going to be talking about ways to improve monsters, or at least we're going to pick one monster and we're going to create an NPC together. And so the more people we got, I think the more ideas we'll have, and we'll come up with something really cool. So somebody had a question here. Princess Canuta. All right, so Princess Canuta, last time you didn't answer my question. What can I do if I kill all my players? So there's 2 answers here, Princess Canuta. The first one is going to assume that you wrote that correctly, and you are talking about killing your players, if you kill all of your players, then my only solution, my only advice to you is to seek legal counsel, I guess. Hide their bodies really well, because that could be a problem. Now, assuming that you mean characters instead of players, TPKs happen. They do. It's a fact of life. And I think that TPKs, an occasional TPK, can actually improve your game. Characters dying can improve your game. Now, as a dungeon master, I never intentionally set out with, I'm going to kill a character or I'm going to TPK the entire group. I never intentionally do that. But I don't always stop it from happening. There are times when I put my kid gloves on and I don't let them all TPK when they could have. But usually that's when I made a mistake, right? But when they make a mistake, a grave error, I kind of let them just see how it happens. Both of my TPKs that have happened recently in my games were because the players made, in my opinion, grave miscalculations. In one of the cases, they knew they had made a mistake. In the other case, I don't think they quite understood the gravity of their error. But anyway, if you kill all your characters, then they just roll up new characters. That's the game, right? They roll up new characters. And I think this is interesting. I think a lot of dungeon masters are hesitant to kill characters or have TPKs, and they feel that somehow their players are going to be upset with them. The first few times I had characters die, or the first time I had a TPK, I thought that maybe my players wouldn't like it. But they might be upset for a little bit, but most of my players love creating new characters. And so a TPK might feel bad at first, or having a character die might feel bad at first, but then they get really excited because now they're gonna play this like Warlock Paladin or Warlock Sorcerer or Warlock Fighter. There's a theme with some of my players. They want to splash 2 Warlock into everything, right? But they'll get excited about their next character, and so it's not a big deal. I would just roll with it. Now, if you're constantly having characters die and you're constantly having TPKs, that is a different story, right? That's a totally different story. But we're going to assume that you're not just killjoy happy over there. All right, let's look at some comments here. We got Princess K. I answered your question. Bromos Sunstar Ranger. What up, dude? Welcome to the live stream. You're getting ready to go to the club to dance with some friends, leaving at 9:30. Awesome, dude. Well, I'm glad you can make it until 9:30, dude. So Sleeping Shaman says, Princess Canuta, put a new trophy on the wall. That's awesome. So like the trophy of your players that you can mount them. What do they call it? A taxidermist that can like stuff them and stuff. Yeah, that's probably, we're traveling into the non-D&D and bad zone at this point. All right. So Bromo says, always talk to the group, establish a session 0, take notes, print it out, or pin it to the gaming group forum or Facebook page. Yep, that's good advice. Having a session 0 and establishing like what the tone of the campaign is going to be, what expectations are and stuff is actually. I'm planning on running Curse of Strahd for a group in a while when we finish our current campaign, and setting expectations for that is going to be very important. If I plan on running it as to be a very deadly, challenging adventure, so you always want to try to do that for sure. All right. Ixip says, I am running an evil campaign. One of the first things I said, you think you are the good guy in your own way, just no one else. Absolutely. I think this is a thing. Evil people probably don't think they're evil. I mean, think about it. When you do something like lie or cheat or steal, we almost always justify it in a certain way. And we don't think that it's a bad thing. I lied because of X, or I stole it because of X, right? And so I don't think evil people walk around thinking they're evil. They think that they're doing the right thing based upon how they see the world and their circumstances. And they probably do what most people do, is blame others for their circumstances or their decisions and stuff like that. So I totally agree with that. Cool. Let's move on to the next thing. Let me get my thingy back up here. So we are at 8:40, which is bring us into our next session, our next segment. What we're going to do in this segment, we're going to talk about alignment. We'll do some more Q&A if you guys got questions. And just as a reminder, coming up at 9 o'clock, and that's the 1 hour mark. If you're catching this on the replay, we're going to be doing a monster makeover. picking a monster and then making it better in D&D. And at 9:30, which is the 1:30 mark, if you're catching on the replay, we're gonna be creating an NPC together. And so that's what we got going on there. All right, we're going to do a little shameless plug here. If any of you guys like this channel and you're getting value out of it and it's helpful, all the other videos I create, then I encourage you to check out my Patreon page. You can help support the channel, and there are some cool perks available. I know Princess K over here is one of my patrons, and then I don't think Matt is here. He was here for the last live stream, but I really appreciate all the support, Princess K, and any other people that might be here hiding out that are patrons. And now we're going to talk about alignment. Alignment. So while I'm talking about alignment, I really want to know what you guys think about alignment too. Let me know in the chat if you, does it even belong in the game? I think is a question that comes up a lot, right? And what use is it? And should the DM be should you constantly be, thinking about your player character's actions, and does it match up with their alignment? And should you be an alignment police and trying to make sure that they never do anything that falls outside of their alignment? I think that's a question too, right, that we should be considering. So my take on alignment as a dungeon master, I don't care. I really don't care what your player character sheet says about alignment. If you're neutral good, if you are neutral evil, or lawful good or lawful evil, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I never really look at it. I never really pay attention to it. The only thing that really matters to me as a dungeon master in relationship to your alignment is that you are going to play together with the group, right? That you're going to stick together, that you are willing to go on the adventures together as a group. So that means that your character must have some motivation to be together with the group, so to put that as an example, if you're playing an evil character and the adventure is X and the entire group is going to do that, and as an evil character you say, I don't want to do that, and I'm going to go off and do my own thing, we have a problem, right? Because I run a group game. So if you want to play evil, then you need to somehow have a motivation. There needs to be something that brings you together so that you actually adventure together with your party. So that's the first thing if you're playing an evil character. The second thing is I don't like the player versus player stuff or the character versus character stuff. So I've never really liked that idea. And I had a player once that came into my group, and he was running and he wasn't evil. He was probably neutral good or chaotic good or something like that. But he was running a rogue, and he was stealing loot so they'd find a chest or whatever, they'd loot a room, and he would be taking all of the loot for himself, magic items for himself, gold for himself. And here's the thing. At the table, everybody knew he was taking all of this stuff, right? But in game, in character, nobody knew this stuff. This went on for some time, and I was kind of like letting him do these things. And then finally I had one of my players just kind of explode and say, there was some explicatives. Why? What the heck? Why is this going on? He was upset about this as a person, as a player, right? And it was at that point that I kind of had to decide, what, this is actually causing, interpersonal problems with my players. And so I had to decide and say, we're no longer going to do all of this, character versus character stuff, whether it's stealing from people or whether it's even attacking them or in that sort of thing. And the reason we had to pull back on that, I think, is that it was actually causing problems with players outside of the game. And that doesn't have to be the case. I know that there are groups that have that stuff happen and nobody takes it personally. And so you can definitely have that. It's not like you can't do it, but it's something to consider. And if you can see that your players are having an issue with that and they're not able to handle it just maturity-wise, then it might be worth considering not having people be evil and doing things, that would cause their players to get upset about it. All right, let's see. I have some other stuff to say, but let's see what we got. I think we have at least some people here. So Ipsip says I think there are degrees. The problem with lawful stupid and chaotic stupid is they don't play as complex people. They play as the alignment. That's wrong in my opinion. Yeah, if you're just purely playing the alignment, yeah. Sleeping Shaman says, I prefer to consider alignment as pin on morality map. In my opinion, players, Ipsips says, alignment is for players to make decisions they as humans wouldn't normally do. It's a guide rail for a moral compass for someone who isn't you. I totally agree, dude. That's actually my next point. My next point is that alignment is a tool to use. As a dungeon master, I don't care what your alignment is. I'm never going to even look at your sheet. You could write chaotic evil on there. As long as you're playing the game and not causing trouble, then whatever. But as a tool for the players to use, alignment can be awesome. It can be spectacular. For instance, if I'm playing, it can be a role-playing tool, right? I am not an evil person. I don't think I'm an evil person. But if I'm playing a lawful evil person, then I have to decide, okay, I need to do things that are within the parameters of the law, right? But I'm also an evil person. So I don't care about hurting people per se. And I might have evil goals or things. I don't know. So I can use that lawful evil as a way to help make decisions as I'm role playing, right? But I think alignment is purely a tool for characters to use if they want to use them. I have some characters who probably have no idea. I have some players who probably have no idea what's written on their character sheet. I have one player who probably has like chaotic good on his character sheet, and all of us at the table pretty much recognize that he is not playing a good character. He is neutral at best, borderline evil in everything that he does. And so he doesn't use the alignment on his character sheet as a guide for his actions. And I think that kind of brings me to my next point, that many times the reason I don't like alignment and I don't really care to think about it a whole lot is a lot of times it really just creates more problems and arguments than it actually helps with the game. For instance, let's say somebody's lawful good, right? And everybody knows this guy's lawful good. And then he's trying to make a decision and do something. His character wants to do X. And then other people at the table are like, wait a second, you're lawful good. Would you really do that? Being lawful good? And then you have a discussion somehow where the other players are questioning this player's role playing of his alignment. And I think that that's where the alignment system it probably does more harm than good, right? If you're going to bring those things up. So there's another kind of failing of it, I think, in my opinion. It's almost like it seems, and alignment, I am not super familiar with other game systems, but my understanding is that Dungeons and Dragons is one of the few game systems that has a sort of alignment system like this. I could be mistaken, but that's what I've heard. So it almost seems like a vestigial, is that the right word? Vestigial organ of the game, like your appendix, that they created originally. Actually, originally, my understanding is they didn't even have the alignment as it exists today. I think there was just law and chaos. I believe those were the two, ends, and you were somewhere on that spectrum. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. But it almost seems like something that it continues on in the game and it's there, but I don't know to what extent, people really get value out of it. I mean, you might, and if you do, and if it's an integral part of your game, that's awesome. For me though, I just tend to ignore it most of the time. Okay, Bromos is asking, what about alignment used as a mechanic for weapons, traps, magic, and what about the alignment language? That's interesting. The alignment language. I think the alignment language is from an earlier edition, if I'm not mistaken. That might be from like first edition or something like that. I think I heard Matt Colville talking about that in one of his videos. So I think it's back from there. I know it doesn't exist in 5th edition, not that I'm aware of. And I'm not sure about previous editions. As far as alignment for weapons, yeah, I can get that. I think there are a couple of weapons that are used, that alignment is used for. I just lost my chat. There's my chat. There it is again. I think it's fine putting it as a requirement in the same way that you would say that this magical wand or rod can only be used by a cleric, a druid, or a wizard. Or you might say that, this tome can only be used by a warlock. It's just putting like certain requirements on it. I don't think there's any problem with that. I wouldn't have a problem with it. The only thing with putting an alignment on a weapon or a magical item is that you are pretty effectively restricting who can use it. And you might want to do that. That might be your intention, to say that only lawful people can use this weapon. And then, there's only 2 people in your group. Maybe they can even use the weapon. And maybe that's something you're fine with. Maybe that's a way you can use the alignment to kind of guide it to the player that you want it to go to. So I think it's fine to do that. I don't see any problems with that. There's probably ways you can use that to your benefit too. Let's see if we got anything else here. Sleeping Shaman. That's a great comment, dude. Best alignment is common sense. Yes, I love common sense. On Facebook, I don't see a lot of common sense a lot of times, and that's sad. I'm sorry, Facebook, but there's so much stuff on there where it's just like, you guys, do you even think? Do you use your brains? There are things that I'm going to say in the live stream that I should probably not say, and that was probably one of them, but that's the nature of an unedited, uncensored live stream. All right. Paul says, Palladium has alignment. That must be a game. Okay, cool. Warhammer, in Warhammer, good people have a very short life. My chat keeps disappearing here. Palladium has alignment. Looks different from D&D, but works out much the same, really. In Warworlds, in WW's Vampire, there's a guidance system, but not alignment exactly. So it sounds like there are other games that have similar systems. They're different and stuff like that, but that's cool. It's good to know. Ipsips says, we just hit 10 people. Woo! All right, who's the 10th person that just joined? Give me like hashtag number 10 if you're the 10th person. You just put us over 10. You just put us at 10. That's awesome. As a player and as a GM, I keep personal notes of alignment on the players. It's not what they think it is. It's what I think it is. I never bring it up or enforce it. I just know. That's interesting. Do you do anything with that? Like, it doesn't sound like you do, but I'm just curious. You're taking notes on it, which means that you think that it's important to do so. And so, and how do you use that then? Honest question. How do you use that in your game? Does it inform things that happen in your game based upon character choices or anything like that? I'm just curious. If you're taking note, the only reason I take notes in the game usually is because I'm going to use it for something. So I'm assuming that you are doing something with that. Okay, Joshua has a question. At what point do you force a character to change alignment? When he puts on a belt of gender changing, then he is hard forced into changing a gender. Wait a second. We're talking about alignment. I just talked about gender. Okay. I have reading skills, reading comprehension problems. Anyway, let's go back to this question. I have a chaotic good character who has begun killing enemies. Even after they surrender, he says, I'm chaotic. I don't think that killing enemies after they surrender is inherently evil. And here's my rationale for that. I probably am a neutral good person, right? I like following the law when it makes sense, but there are times that following the law does not make sense. And but if I were to have, let's just say that I were to have let's say we're living in D&D times. That makes sense. And I just got into a fight with a bunch of people, and they were trying to kill me. They're very, very bad people. They're doing very, very bad things. And I defeated them. And I have 2 of them that are left over, right? Let's just say, too, that 2 of them surrendered and I have them. And there's the rest of this compound that I need to clear out. What am I going to do at that point? They're bad people. They've committed atrocities. Am I going to just let them walk off and live? Am I going to tie them up and take them back to town later for the official law enforcement justice? I don't think so. I mean, if I know that they are engaged in evil activities and they're bad people and the punishment should be death, I think I would just do it, right? You got to do what you got to do. They're bad people. If I take them back to town, they're going to be tried and they're probably going to be executed. So I think you just need to do it, right? You could do it. So my point is that I don't think that a good person killing captured enemies is inherently evil, right? And you might disagree with that. That's cool. But I could see the justification for it. I could see why a player might make the argument, I'm not doing an evil thing. This is justice. this is total justice to kill the evil characters even though they surrendered. Now, you can have, I mean, it sounds like, Josh, that you think that it is evil to do that, which is totally legitimate. From your point of view, I kind of see it a little bit differently, and your player might see it differently too. So personally, I wouldn't make, even if, let's just say I agree with you and the fact that killing a surrendered enemy is not good. So even if I felt that way, I probably wouldn't do anything about it, because there are lots of things I can focus my time and attention and effort on in the game to make it better, make it more entertaining, make it more fun. And trying to debate with a player whether something he does is good or evil, and then trying to guide him in the way that I think is best, and possibly having a discussion or argument over it, I think there are other things that I would rather be doing in the game than having that discussion. And so I would just be like, I disagree with you, but okay, that's cool. Just keep on doing it. It's not a big deal. I might internally be thinking, I'm just making you like evil or borderline evil. I wouldn't make a big deal about it. I don't think it's a big deal, honestly. If you do, then you could just say, no, in my opinion, that's evil, so I'm just going to change your alignment. You could do that. I think that's legitimate too. I just don't know if there's any real benefit from doing that sort of thing. There are lots of things in the game that have a benefit of doing and make the game better or more entertaining or something. And I don't know if making a big deal over alignment is one of them, which is back to my original hypothesis thesis thing, that I don't care about alignment, because it a lot of times can create more problems than it creates benefits. But that's just my personal thoughts on that. So I hope that was helpful, dude. I'm like, Sleeping Shaman says most popular alignment is Suicidal Lemmings. Okay, I'll go with that. No, Almadine. Sorry if I'm killing your name, dude. No, you have not missed it all. We are going to be going for about another hour or so, so you definitely have not missed it all. And Ipsips says, I don't know why I keep notes. I just do. Kind of like I keep notes on when they ad-lib backstories and stuff. All right, cool. That's cool. That's legitimate, dude. Ipsip says I would say it was unlawful, but not evil as long as it was justified. He's also killed people that the party was unsure of their motives. I guess I'm afraid he's leaning towards murder hobo. I mean, yeah, if he's leaning toward a person that just goes around killing people for kicks for no particular reason, then yeah, that is definitely probably not good anymore, right? All right, so we are almost at our 9 o'clock, which is going to give us the segment 3. And I still want to give a couple examples of players who played their alignments super well. And this is an instance where players were using alignments as tools to role play even better than they might otherwise have done, which I think is the best way to possibly use alignment. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to get into some more questions and stuff if you guys got those, and we'll do a question sound off. But right now, what I really need to do, and I need to run to the bathroom real quick. There's like a bio break that's got to happen here. Otherwise, I'm not going to keep talking, because like I have coffee here that needs to be taken care of. So I'm going to be back in just a couple minutes, guys. I'm really sorry. This isn't how you're supposed to run a live stream, but it's life. All right, we are back. Sorry about the small bathroom break. That needed to happen. All right, and then I'll get some more coffee. All right, rock and roll. Examples of players who did their alignment right. So I mentioned this a little bit ago when we started our show here. I had a player, Greg, in one of my games, and he was playing a lawful evil character. And he did a great job role-playing this character. We started to play Princes of the Apocalypse, and he was a member of the Lord's Alliance, which is a faction that has an interest in the region, in like keeping trade up and going, economic prosperity and things like that. And he was an evil character. He was lawful evil. And he was still doing a really great job of going along with all the adventures and doing things for his own motivations. His own motivations were, law. He was being very lawful in everything that he did, following the rule of the law and everything. But he was evil. And so there would be, for instance, in one example, there were, I think, some orcs or something that were attacking a farmhouse. And I was describing these creatures like, killing the farmers and stuff like that and burning down their building. And Greg was like, whatever, let's just keep going. Let's go to our destination because we are supposed to do X thing. He had completely no desire whatsoever to go stop these farmers from being slaughtered. And he did this consistently throughout the game. He always wanted to do what the mission was, right? But if there was any deviation whatsoever, like for something that would like help an innocent or anything, he had no interest in that. So he did a really good job of playing lawful evil in a way that did not disrupt the group. He didn't steal from other player characters or, try to backstab people or just kill random townsfolk. He did none of that typical sort of thing that I think a lot of times we can expect from evil characters. So he did an awesome job role-playing his lawful evil. I don't know who he was. I think he was a sorcerer, I think. With blue skin. Yeah, because I have a mini that I painted of a sorcerer with blue skin. I was just looking at my miniature chest, debating whether I want to actually go get the sorcerer or not. So Josh is like, the chair is DM. Yeah. By the way, surprise. If you might have noticed, my chair is all ripped to pieces. That's my cats. They love clawing this thing. So I got this clawed up, crappy chair. One day I'll get a new one. Paul, he's like, should have used a catheter. Yeah, dude. That's what all the, that's what all the live streamers do. I've been reading about live streaming and stuff, and they all use these things. But I just haven't had the courage to get that all figured out quite yet. All right. Famous streamer chair. Yeah. I wonder, this is interesting. I wonder how other streamers do it, when they got to go, it's just, all right. Let's do a question sound off, guys. Let me know if you got some questions about things and I will answer questions. Give me a hashtag question, all capitals, if you got something you want to ask, and then I will answer some question. The trick is no pants. Oh, dude, Josh, you're totally onto it, man. All right. This is interesting because I have a button here on my microphone. So when I mute it, yeah, I don't think that suggestion is going to work for me, Josh, but I'll think about that. All right, we are in segment 3 of our program today. In this segment, we're going to have a monster makeover where you guys all select a monster out of the monster manual that is kind of lackluster, and we're going to make it better. In our next segment, which is going to be at 9:30, or at the 1 hour, 30-minute mark, if you are on the replay, we're going to be creating an NPC together. So that should be fun. Princess Canuta says the chair is DM because you left. Yes, that's correct. Absolutely. I wonder how big the lag is because I've been back for about 5 minutes, Princess Canuta. I wonder if there might be like a 5-minute lag on the live stream. That's really crazy. So, we got a question. Awesome. We will get to your question in just a moment. First of all, we got to share a word from our sponsors. This video is brought to you by all of the adventures that I publish over on DriveThruRPG. Some of them are pay what you want, and the others are only a few bucks. So not only do you help support the channel, but you also get an adventure out of it. There you go. Word from our sponsors. Now we're going to answer a question. That was like a little shameless plug there for you. What alignment? Oh, wait, you know what? I forgot. Did I give you an example of, I didn't. I skipped my example of lawful good. We're going to get back to that. We're going to get back to my example of a lawful good that was played really well. Don't let me forget that. All right. Now I'm holding Josh in suspense here and answering his question. I just get distracted. What alignment do you feel is the most fun to watch someone play? To watch someone play. I think it's fun to watch someone play an evil character, like a shenanigan making character. The guy who's like wanting to pickpocket other players' characters, the guy who's wanting to like steal things from village people, who's doing all these nasty things. That's fun to watch. It's interesting and stuff. The problem is it usually creates lots of problems in the game. I think it's entertaining though. It's definitely entertaining. I think one of the things that I really want to do is I want to run an all evil campaign. So I usually don't run like the shenanigans type campaigns where people are just, I think that would be fun. I think that would be a riot if everybody is on the same page in that type of game and running that type of campaign. So I think that would be really fun. I like seeing, I saw once a lawful good, I'm gonna go into my example of a lawful good character off from that. I saw a lawful good character role played amazingly well by my friend Kevin. He's in my Sword Coast Guard group, and his character died. He was part of one of our TPKs. But what he did is he was lawful good, but he intentionally made his intelligence low, and he allowed himself to be convinced by the other characters in the group to do things that were somewhat questionable according to his alignment. And this allowed him to basically, when they wanted to break into a building, let's say, the players would try to convince him that, oh no, we are official authorities of Waterdeep. It is okay for us to do this. And Kevin would role play his paladin as going along with it. And so I think he did a really good job of, he was literally playing lawful stupid, okay, but in a good way. He was being a good person. He was being a lawful person. But in order for his lawful good character to fit into the dynamics of a game where not everybody is lawful good, he allowed himself to be persuaded by them to do things. And it resulted in a lot of good role play between the characters themselves, between the players themselves, where he would have an objection about doing something, and then the other players would convince him that it's the right thing to do for whatever reason, and he'd be like, okay, and he goes along with it. And there was a lot of stuff that went down that was not something a lawful good character would probably allow, but he went along with it because they would convince him of it. And I think it was really good. It was a really good way to make that work at the table. And it was entertaining as well. And it presented an opportunity for the players to interact with each other, in character, which I think is something that is really cool and interesting and doesn't always get to happen at the table. A lot of times it's just, the DM with the characters or combat or something. So I think it was pretty cool. So that was an example of a lawful good character that was run really, really well. All right. Oh, we got a question over here. Awesome. I already did that. I already told you about my Discord server too, which is on my list here, about the adventure we're making about the kobolds for level 20 characters, which is looking to be really cool. And we're gonna be doing a monster makeover in just a second here, guys. And what I want to do is I'm gonna have you guys tell me a monster out of the monster manual, and then we are going to make it a little bit better together. So think about monsters that you guys have run in your games or that you've seen run in games if you're a player that have been kind of crappy, and we're gonna pick one or maybe several of them, and we're gonna think of ways to make these monsters better. So we got a question over here by Paul. And question, love the Medusa, hate facing them though. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point, right? You get turned to stone. I don't know what the question is, but I'm going to make up a question, or I'm going to at least talk about that subject. what I really like about the 5th edition Medusa, actually 5th edition did this for almost all creatures, I think, that can petrify you. They introduced traditionally in like 3.5 and other editions, you made one saving throw, and if you failed that saving throw, you were turned to stone. Period, end of story. Which that's the traditional save or suck, right? And 5th edition took it so that if you fail it the first time, you're like restrained, I believe, and you can't really move or anything. And then on your next turn, you get another chance to save. And if you fail it a second time, then you're actually turned to stone. And I really like that mechanic. And honestly, I don't think at higher levels, getting turned to stone isn't that big of a deal. If your players have access to magic that can unstone you, I believe Greater Restoration will unstone you. So, but Medusas are fun, and I think they're fun too because when the players see the Medusa, they know they could get turned to stone, and so it introduces this tension into the game, which I think is really cool. All right. Almadine says, any tips on how to do a murder mystery in D&D 5e? Oh man, I don't run murder mysteries. I would just be purely hypothesizing about how to do a murder mystery. I mean, I think you would need to know actually everything that happened, and then you would need to make a list of clues and things that would possibly begin to lead the characters to the actual solution. And you might scatter clues and evidence throughout the game world that might lead them to another area where they get more clues and stuff like that. So you kind of have a bunch of different things peppered around the place that would slowly lead them from one place to another. And then I would place certain encounters in different places as well, people that would oppose them, as they go from one place to another. I would do something like that. That would be my best stab at it, having never done that before. I think one challenge that you might run into with a murder mystery is typically in Dungeons & Dragons, there's this adventuring day mechanic where the game is designed so that you run through about, I think it's like 6 to 8 medium or hard encounters in an adventuring day before you can take a long rest. And this is for balance, right? Because if your players always do one battle and take a long rest, do another battle and take a long rest, it's totally unbalanced in a lot of ways. So for your murder mystery, what I would really consider doing, especially if you're in like a city setting or a town setting and they're going from clue to clue to clue, put some sort of time limit in place where they need to do it in a certain amount of time. For instance, let's say that you have a murderer on the loose, and let's say that every day one new person shows up dead. You're putting a time limit on it, so they can no longer just take a long rest after a combat. There's a time limit. They can't take a long rest. They need to solve this because every time they take a long rest, another person is going to end up dead. So definitely think of a mechanic to put a time limit on it, right? So that's definitely a piece of advice. So I hope that was helpful. I've never done that before, so I'm just kind of pulling something out and throwing it up there and hoping that it is somewhat helpful for you. All right, Josh has got some stuff. Oh, I'm out of coffee. But I have water over here, so I'll drink water. My wife is now playing a chaotic evil character. She takes the eyes of everyone she kills. It's kind of, that's awesome. I love that. Does she put them in like a belt pouch or something? Or does she like create a necklace out of them? That's awesome. Josh, I think you were saying, this was probably about a month ago or so on our Discord, but you were saying how your wife had just begun playing with you guys and you were excited that she finally decided to give it a go. So if she's still playing and stuff, I'm glad that worked out really well for you. That's really cool to hear that, man. I know that you were hoping that she would take to D&D. So if she is on, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. She puts them in a leather map case she found. Awesome. She's up to 40. Oh, that's awesome, dude. Really cool. All right, let's go into our monster makeover, guys. So if you what I want to do is everybody who's on here, leave me a hashtag monster makeover and then list the name of a monster that you want us to take a look at to make better. A monster that you've run in your games that you find kind of crappy, that wasn't as good as you expected it to be. And then together we're gonna have a brainstorming session and figure out a way to make these monsters a little bit better. And I have dice here. So I think what I'm probably gonna do is if we get more than one, or if we get a whole bunch of these, I can roll dice and we'll we will pick one that we'll do together. Or I might just pick the one that I think is the most interesting and do that. I don't have a list of monsters. I have the monster manual here, but I did not pick a list of monsters that I want to look at. So this is up to you guys. This is up to you guys to decide which ones we want to take a look at. I know a lot of times dragons seem kind of lackluster in 5th edition when I've run them before. They need a little bit of spice. But what do you guys want to do here? What monster are we going to talk about? Sleeping Shaman. Mysteries. I don't do such things. My players would just round up suspects and torture them. That's awesome. That's freaking sweet. Torture scenes are interesting, right? Because at what point does the person just decide to tell people everything as opposed to being tortured and put in pain? You know, especially in like a fantasy world where you can heal them, right? Because if you can torture somebody, right, bring their health down, and then torture them, and then heal them to get them healed back up again, then you can just kind of do that. That'd be horrible. You can do that indefinitely. All right, so I've got one person now that's piped in. I think about monsters. He says, personally, bugbears are terrifying for the first encounter a party has with them, but otherwise not that bad. And then Monster Makeover, doppelgangers. All right, so we got bugbears, it sounds like, and then doppelganger. I do have some issues with bugbears, as written in the book. Some things I don't like about bugbears, so I think that's a good candidate. And then doppelgangers. All right, so let's just see. We have 2 people with Monster Makeover things, so I have a D6 right here, and I'm going to roll the D6. And as you can see, I rolled a 1. So that means we're going to go with bugbears. All right, I'm going to look up the bugbear in here, and then we're going to talk about this bad boy, and we're going to see how we can make this thing better. So it's on page 33 of the Monster Manual. And if I were a little more sophisticated, I would have a way to show you my screen, and I could pull up a PDF of the Monster Manual as we look at this. I plan on doing that with like OBS or something like that at some point in the future. But for right now, I do not have any sophistication in the live stream. I am just figuring it out. And so this is what we got. We have bugbears right here for you guys. And I'm just going to read them a little bit. One of the things I don't like about them, I think there's one mechanic they have that they only get to do something if they surprise you. So their mechanic here, it says surprise attack. If the bugbear surprises a creature and hits it with an attack during the first round of combat, the target takes an extra 7 damage from the attack. So they gave the bugbear a mechanic that will come into use almost never in a game, right? Unless you get surprise. So there are 2 things that's got to happen. The bugbears have to get surprise on the characters, and they have to hit them in the first round of combat. So I actually once implemented bugbears that got surprise, and the way that I did this, and the reason this is kind of a crappy mechanic is that, I mean, it makes sense because bugbears are like assassin-y type creatures. So it makes sense from a roleplay perspective, from a monster creation perspective, that because they're assassins, if they get you in the first round and they jump out and surprise you, they get extra damage. I get that it totally makes sense, right? But actually at the table, it's kind of hard for them to get surprised. It can be, at least, unless you create your encounter so that they by default get surprise. Right. But if you have a group of bugbears and they just roll a crappy, like I have a D20 here and I roll it, I got an 11 and their stealth is a 6. So that's 17. That's pretty good. Right. But you might have some characters whose passive perception is higher than that. Maybe you don't. But what I would do here is it's only if you get surprise, and it's only if it's in the first round of combat. I might just give the bugbears sneak attack, just like a rogue, and say that bugbears get sneak attack damage if they have advantage on the attack roll or they're within 5 feet of another bugbear. So you might just do that to increase or make the bugbear a little bit better. What you might do is if you're having trouble getting surprise, you could increase their stealth a little bit. I once gave bugbears invisibility potions so that it was easier for them to hide and easier for them to gain surprise. And the one encounter I wanted to tell you about that I created using bugbears and how I got them to get surprised is I had my chat keeps disappearing and it's really distracting for me. Sorry. I created a room that had there was like a basin of water in the center of the room, and there were gargoyles up along the ledges over here. And so every player, when they see gargoyle statues, instantly think, oh, these are the gargoyles that come to life and attack you. And so my players had their characters move into the room, and they're all super suspicious of these gargoyles. They're like looking up at these gargoyles. I probably had somebody who's like, I firebolt the gargoyles. I firebolt that one, and I firebolt that one. And they're totally paying attention to these gargoyles. Meanwhile, in this basin of water, I had several bugbears submerged, and they were doing the classic little thing of where they're breathing through straws. And then when my players were all focused on these gargoyles, the bugbears jumped out of the water and got surprised on them. And I think there were 2 players that have some sort of thing where they didn't get surprised. I think they have the alertness feat or something like that. And one of them was like something barbarian or something that couldn't be surprised. But the point is that they got surprised on a lot of them and were able to do their special thing. But only because I went to the effort of designing a very specific situation in which they could get surprised, right? And so I think that is probably the flaw with this whole surprise attack of the bugbear. I would give them sneak attack damage like a rogue to just kind of make them a little bit better. That's one way to go about doing it. And then possibly maybe you say that if they attack during the first round or something, they have like the assassin ability, the rogue assassin, where it's a critical hit or something like that. You could do that too and make it a little bit better. So, all right. Any other monsters you guys want to take a look at? We're at 9:20. So we're almost at the end of this segment. And we will get you high quality, I promise. Yeah. Thanks, Josh. Yeah. Once I start having some time to like goof around with like OBS and other things, I think it's going to look better. Doppelgangers. We have a request for a monster makeover of doppelgangers. And we're going to be doing like a Q&A thing too. If you guys got questions you want to ask me, I will do a sound off for those. You guys can toss some questions in there. But let's find doppelgangers. And I always go to the index to find these monsters. The monster manual is actually pretty easy to find monsters. They have an index back here, and you just find them, which I'm sure you guys all know that. Hold on, page 82 is the doppelganger. By the way, the dude who asked about the doppelganger, Almadine, if you wouldn't mind, just let me know in the comments why you don't like the doppelganger or why you think that it needs a makeover. Because if I know specifically like what your area of concern is, and then that will help too as far as doing a makeover on it. So, and my comment about the index is if you take a book like Volo's or Mordenkainen's, they don't really have a super good, well, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes has an index at the beginning of the book where you can look up the monsters. And Volo's Guide to Monsters, I don't think it even has an index where you can alphabetically look up monsters, which I don't think it does. I could be wrong. But I seem to remember being frustrated with it because I could never find what I wanted to look for, which seems really odd, that you wouldn't have an index of monsters. So, all right, we're going to look at the doppelganger. Jonathan. Hey, Jonathan, what's going on, dude? I like the idea of rogue sneak attack. All right, thanks. Let's see. Josh says, making it by default is kind of railroading the story, forcing it to give the bugbears that advantage. It feels linear. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Giving it surprise by default is definitely a little bit of railroady in so much that the players don't have any choice, right? The bugbears will always get surprised. And so I don't like doing that sort of thing. I occasionally have introduced some mechanics where something will always happen a certain way, and it's built that way by design, but I usually try to avoid that sort of thing. All right, the doppelganger. I've used the doppelganger, I think, once or twice in my games, and they usually just get the crap beat out of them, and they're probably not really built for like a combat type thing. They're more for like spies or infiltrating things. Let's just take a look at this. So it's a shape changer. It can change its shape into anything it wants to. It's an ambusher, so it has advantage on attack rolls against any creature it has surprised. Again, we have that surprise mechanic. It has no stealth score, so its stealth is just its dexterity, which is a +4, which means that, I mean, but you could rule, of course, that if I'm a doppelganger and I'm looking like myself, and then I suddenly change into something else, I could surprise someone. I don't know. I don't see how giving it the ambusher trait is going to do any good here, because it's probably not going to surprise things too super frequently, any more than any other normal enemy could surprise people. So, and then it has a surprise attack. If it surprises a creature and hits it with an attacker in the first round of combat, it gets an extra bit of damage. So I don't see that as being super useful at all. What I would do is I would give the doppelganger some sort of trait. And by the way, guys, if you have suggestions on how we can improve these things, please throw me over there in the comments. I mean, part of what I want to do here is I don't want you guys to just listen to me talk about these dumb monsters and how we can make them better. I'd really like to see what suggestions you guys have about how we can make these monsters better. I would give the doppelganger some sort of shape changing ability. And the other thing about shape changer that is always unsatisfying to me is that they have to use their action to shape change. Think about this. So if you had a doppelganger, right, looking to be impersonating a noble, let's say, and you wanted to have this really awesome scene where a combat breaks out, and then when the combat breaks out, the doppelganger reveals himself as who he actually is, or changes to impersonate one of the player's characters, right? You have to use an action to do that. And we know that action economy in 5th edition is a big thing. And so giving up your entire turn basically to shape change is a problem. So usually the first thing that I do, and I do this for almost all creatures that I run that can shape change, especially if it's just like concealing your actual identity, I allow them to shape change as like a bonus action. So you're not actually using up your entire action, you're using it as a bonus action. So I think the first thing that I would do for a doppelganger is allow it to shape change with a bonus action. And the primary reason for doing that, it doesn't actually give it any real combat advantages. What it does is it makes it just more dramatic, right? That the doppelganger, even in combat, can like shape change into something else. And the way that I would use a doppelganger in combat, honestly, if you can pull this off, especially if you have, let's say you have 4 characters and you have 4 doppelgangers in combat, have the doppelgangers impersonate the characters themselves. And then they get mixed together and stuff like that, and they can't tell each other apart. And this would require a little bit of role playing from your characters, right? And it would be nice if you could have miniatures, if you use minis, that like, look the same too. But if you can somehow make it work where you have this like combat that happens where nobody can tell each other apart and you don't know if you're friend or foe, that could be really interesting. The problem where that might get hairy, of course, is like the metagaming part, which is just going to happen. It's going to happen. DMs do it, players do it, but that would be really interesting. Definitely let them shape change as a bonus action for sure. I would definitely say that. And it can make 2 melee attacks, which are a slam attack, or it can read thoughts as an action. I would probably. A lot of times, so 5th edition is interesting. Characters in 5th edition are super powerful, in my experience. They're even without magic items, characters are super powerful. So one of the ways that I, by default, a lot of times modify monsters is I make them more powerful. And so I would allow a doppelganger to use his read thought things as like a bonus action. There's no reason that needs to take an entire action. And he's able to read. This is interesting. Here's what you could do. If he can read thoughts as a bonus action, the doppelganger can get the surface thoughts of one of your players. And so you could say that it knows what the player or what the character is planning on doing ahead of time and then can react. So what you might do if they're versing a bunch of doppelgangers is ask your players what their characters are going to do in that round. And then the doppelgangers can like read their thoughts and know what they're planning on doing and then react before the players can do it. So for instance, if your wizard is planning on throwing down a fireball, The doppelgangers read that surface thought, and then they spread out to get out of the fireball range, right? So that's a way that you could definitely spice up the doppelganger and make that really interesting. And that totally goes in line with role-playing the doppelganger. Reading surface thoughts before the players do something, they're thinking about it, and the doppelgangers react to that. That would be really, really interesting, I think, as a mechanic. So there's a couple different ways that you can spice up a doppelganger. Doppelganger. So there you go. Hope that's useful. Let's see what other people got to say here. Cool. Arthur, what is going on, dude? I'm glad you can make it. You look familiar. I'm pretty sure you were in our last live stream. Cool. Or you left a comment in my channel or something. That's awesome, dude. Thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate you showing up and being here. Awesomeness. We got some other stuff here. Almadine. Oh, I think Almadine is asking. So I asked Almadine to, I asked him to tell us why he thinks doppelgangers, he doesn't like them or he wants to make them improved. And he answered my question. So let's read his answer to that. He says, they just seem very vulnerable. I know they're supposed to be more sneaky, but other than surprise attack, they're relatively weak to me. I agree. I had a doppelganger in a campaign group once. Sorry. Nothing I can do about this live stream. Not my fault. And he just got destroyed. As soon as the doppelganger was revealed, it's like, boom, game over. I don't think there's any reason that the doppelganger needs to have an armor class of 14. I mean, the doppelganger could be wearing any type of armor you want him to wear. I think it would be totally reasonable to just boost his armor class or something up like that. You know, it changes the challenge rating a little bit, you know, but give him more armor class or give him more hit points, right? This is something you can do in your games if there's a combat that's just turning very, it looks like it's going to be over super fast. I mean, why does a doppelganger have 52 hit points? You know, why doesn't it have 100 or something? You could do that. And you don't have to, here's the thing, as a dungeon master, you have complete liberty to change your game elements. You could create your own version of a doppelganger that has 100 hit points or 200 hit points, that has an armor class of 18, that can do any of these things that I talked about beforehand about changing your doppelganger. You have the liberty to do any of those changes, and there is nothing to say that you have to do it before the game, before the combat begins. Why can't you change that during combat, right? Is that cheating? I don't think it's cheating. I think it is cultivating the game. I think that it is working with your players to make the game more interesting on the fly during the game. In the same way that I might modify on the fly during the game, I create DCs for difficulty classes for things that they want to do, right? It's a DC 15 to do this or a DC 20 to do that. So on the fly, if I have an enemy that they are just totally destroying, why not just extend his hit points out a little bit? Why not say that when he gets to half hit points, he goes into a fury rage and he starts attacking twice as many times? I can do these things as a dungeon master. As long as I'm doing them not to win the game and I'm not doing them to screw my players over, as long as I'm doing them with the thought of, I want to make this battle more interesting and more challenging for my players, then I should feel free to change those elements on the fly. So that was a tangent for you guys all. And then he said something else up here. He said maybe they should have some type of psychic ability to deal psychic damage. Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes sense. You could give them something like that. Like if they read your thoughts successfully, maybe they can implant thoughts into your brain, right? So they can read your thoughts. Why couldn't they implant thoughts into your brain and like mess with your head? And so maybe there's a DC 12, what would it be? Charisma save, I think would be appropriate. Or maybe a wisdom save or intelligence save. The reason I like targeting, intelligence save, let's make an intelligence save. And I think it's important I like using intelligence saves because most characters don't have good intelligence saves, right? So you're targeting a weak spot. But maybe the doppelganger can implant thoughts into their heads and make them believe things that aren't true, and also maybe deal psychic damage as well. So there's a possibility for you. So there we go. And Josh says, my party encountered one once. They exposed it and chased it, but it turned into a duplicate of the barkeep. The party just used magic to put them both to sleep. No concentration equals no shape change. That's interesting. What does it say here? So the doppelganger doesn't have to concentrate to maintain its shape change. It doesn't really say. It does specifically say it reverts to its true form if it dies. But it doesn't say anything about whether when it's shape changed, whether it turns back or not. I mean, as a dungeon master, dungeon master can always rule how he wants. In this case, you would need a special ruling because it doesn't say what happens when the doppelganger is like sleeping or unconscious. So it could easily turn back into the creature that it actually is. Although I could see a case being made that a doppelganger, if he's impersonating people and he's like pretending to be a noble or something, if every night when he goes to sleep, he turns back into his actual self, it would be very risky for a spy to have that happen to him. But yeah, that's cool. Arthur says, playable race changeling on 4E has changeling disguise as a minor action at willpower. I like it a lot. That sounds cool. I've never played 4th edition before. I want to one day just to say that I've done it, right? Everybody always bashes 4th edition and stuff, and I don't know if it's justified or not. I want to play the game so that I can actually have my own opinion on it, besides believing other people. Changeling rogues are best. I like Warhammer. PC are properly fragile. They die easily. That's awesome. Let's see. Elfbait, what's going on, dude? Welcome to the live stream. Good to see you, man. Give doppelgangers regeneration. Yep. Regenerate. Absolutely. They can control their flesh, so why not heal wounds? That's a very interesting point. Very, very true. I like that. And only heal in their original. Oh, that is a good idea, Josh. So a doppelganger can heal in its original form. And so if it's getting beat up or something, it has to turn to its original form to be able to heal itself, which gives it. And then I would also say that they have to turn to their original form. And they might need to use like a bonus action or an action to do some healing. If you make it an action, that's taking their entire turn. So you really got to make it a lot of healing. Otherwise, if it's just a little bit of healing, if they're taking an average of 20 points of damage per round and they're only able to heal 10 points of damage, then there's no sense in trying to heal. You might as well just try to kill the players faster or kill the characters faster. But that's a good idea. I like that idea. Let's see. Elfbait says the ability to form natural weapons, nasty claws, fangs, etc. Absolutely. And wings. You could turn into something that has wings on it, right? So you can fly. I read a book once where a doppelganger had wings and tried to fly away. Absolutely. Claws and stuff like that. Maybe like a really long arm so that you have reach on your attack. Stuff like that would be really cool. Absolutely. I would do that. Werewolf healing, typical fictional werewolf healing where changeling shape heals. Yep. Yeah. Bony Spurs. Arthur says, I played a lot of Tormenta, a Brazilian RPG. Doppelgangers have some points they can allocate and reallocate on any stat when needed. Oh, that's really cool. I do like that idea. Because if they can control their shapes and stuff, they can change their stats. So they could change their constitution or their strength, right? Or their dexterity. I don't know that I would go so far as to say like their mental abilities, like wisdom, intelligence, and charisma. Those might be fixed, but their physical stats, yeah. And maybe what they would do is you could have a mechanic where if they increase one, they would decrease another, right? Now this could get a little hairy in the game. I mean, one of the things to always consider when you're trying to run a game are like the mechanics and how cumbersome the mechanics are at the table. So if refiguring stats becomes a real problem, like if I increase my constitution, I get more hit points. If I decrease my constitution, I get fewer hit points. If I increase my strength, I do more damage. If that becomes something that's like unmanageable at the table and just causes things to delay and bog down, you want to take that into consideration, right? You don't want to create rules that are going to make the game unwieldy, but it's a really good idea. And if you can streamline that and have stuff prepared ahead of time, that would be really cool. I like that idea. This is why I wanted you guys all to chime in with ways to improve these monsters, because you guys have a lot better ideas than I do. I'm gonna ride the wave of you guys' intelligence here. Elfbait. Doppelgangers masquerade for long periods. I think they can sleep and keep their form. I agree. That's my reasoning. I think they can fall asleep and keep their form. That would be my ruling as a dungeon master. Otherwise, they would make really bad spies if they're constantly, losing their form. It specifically says it reverts to its true form if it dies. So that's how I would rule. But I mean, obviously, it's not. It's one of those one of those gray areas, So the dungeon master is always welcome to rule his own thing on that, and I think that's perfectly fine, especially if it's magical sleep or something like that. That might be a little bit different. I don't know, maybe not. All right, Jonathan. It uses polymorph to shape change. In 5e, the polymorph spell is a constant. It doesn't use polymorph. It literally, it doesn't cast a spell. It literally has a character trait that says shape changer. It can use its action to polymorph into a smaller medium creature it has seen. Right, but it's not actually casting polymorph. I would totally agree with you if it says it casts polymorph, but it just says it polymorphs into. So polymorph isn't necessarily a spell. I think a lot of times when they are talking about spells, they will italicize them, I think. So I would rule that this is just the normal English use of the word polymorph as opposed to the spell polymorph. But this is a gray area, so you could rule that if you want to, but I would not interpret that as actually casting polymorph, but that's just my opinion on it. Arthur says changelings are basically playable doppelgangers. Yeah. Are changelings in 5th edition? Changelings would be cool. Changelings would be an awesome spy character if you're running the sort of campaign that would like use that sort of thing, like infiltrating enemy compounds and stuff like that. That would be really cool. All right, guys, we are at 9:40, which means that we are into segment 4 of our show tonight. And what we're going to be talking about in segment 4 is NPC creation. We'll do some more questions and answers. By the way, I didn't do question and answers for that last segment. So if you guys had questions that you were saving that you wanted to throw at me, please do that now. Give me a hashtag question in all caps and throw questions up there, and I'll answer some questions real quick. And then after we do some questions and answers, we will move on to our next segment in our programming for tonight, which we're going to talk about NPC creation. And I'm going to show you guys some awesome dice that I have, some custom dice that this dude I met at a convention made for me. And they're really sweet. So I'm going to show those off to you guys. And that's going to be our next segment here. But leave me some questions down below. And I have another problem I got to deal with here. And so we're going to take the chair is going to be the DM Lair for just a moment as I go take a bio break. Sorry, guys. I will be right back. All right. I am back. I don't know what the solution is to not having to take bio breaks when you're live streaming. I mean, because the thing is that like when you're constantly talking, you have to drink water to keep stuff like lubricated and whatnot, So, but of course, if you're constantly drinking water, you're constantly having to take breaks, right? So I don't know what the solution is there, but see you later, Bromos. Have a good night, dude. Glad you joined us, man. And no questions. Cool. We'll move on to our next segment. One of the things, too, that I'm going to ask you guys is ideas for future videos. If you guys have, we'll do this. You can do it now if you want to, but if you have ideas for videos, then go ahead and just type down hashtag video something or other and leave that down in the comments, and just ideas for videos that you guys might find helpful would be cool. And then I can do some videos for you. All right, so in this segment, we're going to talk about that stuff right there. Oh, I was going to show you some dice. Let's do this. So I'm going to try to get these so you guys can see these. But he gave me 4 of these dice. And if you guys can, let me see if I can get this so you can see it properly. Yeah, there we go. He's got my logo on these dice. Check that out. I got a blue one. And then he's got like script on it. So you can see he's got like the 4 and the 2, and there's the 3. If I can turn it properly, and so you can see it's like focusing on my face. It's like it's doing face tracking here. But he gave me 4 of these things, and so I have 4 dice with my logo where the 6 would normally be. And so that is super cool. So because he did some custom dice for me, he is getting a shout out in this video. This is like is this backwards to you? This is backwards to me. Like when I'm looking at this on the screen, all of the text is backwards. Is this like backwards to you guys? Looks like I have some video figuring out to do to make things not backwards. It's fine for you? Awesome. Glad to hear it. So this guy, his name is Dave, and I met him at Grand Con probably about a month ago or so, whenever Grand Con was. And he made these dice for me. And if you want customized dice, I think he uses laser cutting, and these are metal dice, and he just laser cuts, he etches into them, it looks like. So if you need customized dice for anything, I'd reach out to this guy. This is pretty cool. I mean, this looks to be a pretty good job for me. I mean, I like this stuff. So it's www.javelindice.com. And I did put a link down below in the description to him if you want to check him out. So he gave me free stuff, and it's pretty good quality from what I can gather. And so he gets a little special mention here in the video. There you go. Bam. Thanks, Dave, for the dice. I appreciate it. And everybody says it's okay. Good. I'm glad it works, because everything. Oh, my shirt's reversed for me too. Yeah, I don't know. That's really weird, but I'm glad it works for you guys. All right, sweet. We're going into the last little stretch here, and I want to talk about NPCs with you guys. We're going to create an NPC together. So, what we're going to do is, I don't know how you guys all create NPCs. A lot of times when I would say the majority of NPCs that I create for my games, I don't tend to do tons of detail for an NPC. I'll get the name of the NPC, and I'm mostly thinking NPCs, a non-reoccurring NPC. For a non-reoccurring NPC, like maybe the bad person in an adventure that is probably going to live for about, an hour on screen and most of it's combat, and he's going to die. I'm not going to go through a lot of effort designing an NPC that I know is probably going to say 2 words to the party and then get into combat and then be dead, right? So I'm not going to put a ton of effort into those sorts of NPCs, to be perfectly honest. I'll give them a name, I'll give them a description, I'll give them a motivation, right? And then I'll give them like a means and a method. And I'll be very basic, high level about that so that I know how to run them at the table and make decisions, right? But when I have a reoccurring NPC, an NPC that I know is going to come up time and time again in my games, I go into much more detail for them. And I'm going to go get something real quick to show you. What I do when I'm developing an NPC is I create these little cards. And what I do is on the front side of the card, I print out a picture of the NPC. And then on the back side of the card, I'm going to try to get this up here. Hopefully it'll focus so you guys can kind of see it. I don't know if you can read that. That's better. There you go. Maybe a little bit. Some focusing problems. Sorry about that. But what I do on the back side of this is I write down their appearance, abilities, their talent, mannerism, interaction trait, their voice, how they speak, an ideal, a bond, a flaw, and a secret. And then I have some notes about them. And I don't think you guys can see that very well. And I do apologize for that. But I have a whole bunch of these. I do these for all of my reoccurring NPCs. And then on the back of them, I have a bunch of notes and stuff, for them. And I just go into Microsoft Publisher, I think is what I use. And then I make these up for reoccurring NPCs. And the reason this works really well is when I'm running these NPCs at the table. Oh, here's one. I hold this NPC card up like this in front of me as I'm like interacting as the NPC, because I want all of the players to see this is who I'm role playing currently. And then of course on the backside I have all the information. And so as I'm talking in character and role playing this NPC, I have all the information on the back of it that I can use to, guide my role playing and stuff like that. So that's why I do this sort of thing here. And I'm pretty sure on Amazon you can buy like cards that have like pictures on the one side, and then maybe you could use like sticky notes, and put them on the back, or you could just do what I do and just like, create them all in like publishing software and print them all. But anyway, that's not the point of what we're doing right now. That was just like a show and tell. What we're actually going to do is we're going to create an NPC together. So the first thing that we need is a name. So give me some names, guys. We need some names. Random name generators, go. And then we're going to be referencing page 89 in the Dungeon Master Guide, is where it talks about creating NPCs. And I really like this, actually. I think all of these different things that it talks about in the Dungeon Master Guide to create NPCs is super useful, and I really like it. So we're going to be kind of walking through that as we generate our NPC. So we need names. We need names, guys. If we don't get names, I'm just going to like take some of your names or something. Or I'll use a random generator. I'll just pull up a random generator and randomly generate some names. That might be funny. Let's take a look here. So we're going to Google fantasy name generator. Fantasy name generators. Here we go. We're going to pick something. Fantasy names. Yes, we want fantasy names. I'm sorry I can't show you my screen. You just have to stare at my face. So that's really weird. All right, let's see if you guys. Oh, I got some interesting stuff here. Probably not as super interesting as you guys could come up with. But let's see what you all are saying. Do we have any names? No names. No names. Oh, man. All right. Let's pick some people here. Arthur Almadine. That almost sounds like a fantasy name. Dragonfur. Almadine. Shaman. Let's go. Oh, Ipskus. That guy. I was making fun of his name. I can't pronounce his name very well. Let's do Almadine. I like Almadine. Arthur, you want? Okay. All right, dude. You volunteered, man. We're going to make Arthur. So our NPC's name is Arthur. Oh, I know Almadine's like, yay. So I'm like, we're going to use Almadine, and then like, okay, here's what we're going to do. It's going to be Arthur Almadine. There you go. You both get your name as an NPC. All right, so now we got a name. The first thing that I usually do when I'm creating an NPC is I decide on an appearance. So what is our appearance? Oh, here we go. Theron Stormwind says Tarset. All right, that's his last name. So this person's name is Arthur Almadine Tarset. And we need a description of him. Give me some descriptive terms. What kind of hair does he have? What does his skin look like? What kind of clothes does he wear? This is the basic consideration of an NPC, because when he appears on screen for your players, you got to describe what he looks like, or you have to find a picture, right, of him. Long, messy hair. There we go. So we have long, messy hair. Got it. Male or female? We have Arthur, right? So I think we're kind of stuck into it being male because we've already chosen the name for him, right? So long, messy hair. And there's got to, usually what I try to do is, a lot of times I have a picture of him that I show people, but you don't want to spend way too much time describing every little nuance of the NPC, because that's like a big box of text. Your players' eyes are going to glaze over and they're not going to remember most of it. So I usually like to pick like maybe two distinct things about the person, right? Two things that I'll describe that like will stand out to the people. So long, messy hair is one thing, and there should be one other characteristic, some sort of thing that will stand out to the people. So we need one more thing. Oh, Bromos. Somebody said good night, Bromos. Oh, Princess Canuta said good night, Bromos. I think Bromos left about a half hour ago, Princess Canuta, just so you know. He's no longer here. Elfbait said balding, graying, red hair. All right, so he now has long, messy hair that is turning gray and it's beginning to bald. So he could have like patches where there's no hair and he's like growing it long to do sort of like a comb over type thing. Okay, so there you go. What did Josh say? Tubby, redheaded. Tubby. All right, there we go. We have another characteristic of him. He is tubby. All right. So, now I have a picture in my mind of this guy who is like rotund with this gut, and he has this long, stringy, greasy hair that's going bald in certain places. So you see what we're doing? We're slowly coming upon an NPC that might be memorable, right? They're not going to remember his name. They will never remember his name. But sessions from now, they're going to say, hey, remember that fat dude with the long, greasy hair? Let's go talk to him, right? And so that's what you want to do. You want to have elements that make him memorable so they'll remember the guy. They'll never remember his name. They'll always mess the name up in my experience. All right, he's chubby. Chubby. Yeah, I have a cat most of my cats are chubby, actually. They're lazy bums. And Almadine says, long, messy hair, slightly pulled back into a ponytail, salt and pepper styled hair, 2 different colored eyes, blue and green. Great, man. That's awesome. Lots of description. I would, as you unveil this to your characters, I would only give like a couple things of description at a time, right? But having all of that could be very, very useful. He dresses in clothes that look like they were once fine, but are threadbare and stained. Awesome. So we're talking about a fat dude, long stringy hair, threadbare clothes. What I'm thinking is that he's a glutton. He only concerns himself with partying and drinking. And so he's all the money he gets goes toward that pursuit. And so he can no longer afford good clothes. And so they're all threadbare. So now we are developing a personality for our NPC. We're developing a character trait, possibly a flaw, a motivation of his. Maybe all he cares about is eating and partying and drinking and eating. I already said that. And so now we're starting to flesh out a little bit of the NPC. And this is the sort of thing, for a reoccurring NPC, this is the sort of thing that I would want to flesh out about him and that I would be writing down and trying to role play and describe to my players. All right, let's see. He's always accompanied by his copper pipesome. I don't know what a copper pipesome is. Sorry. It's the dude from the Big Lebowski. I think that's a show or something. I haven't watched that. I don't watch a lot of TV, guys. I have Netflix and I have Amazon Prime, but I don't have a lot of time to watch TV. What do I watch? I love The Walking Dead. I think there's a new season out that I need to go watch. I think that's been out, so I need to watch that. And I watch a lot of House. I think that's interesting. What else do I watch? Game of Thrones, really good. The books are awesome. They did a really good job of the movie too, I think, in my opinion. I like watching Game of Thrones, but other than those, I don't watch a lot of TV. All right. Anyway, that was a detour for you. Detour. He carries a finely crafted pocket watch that hasn't worked in years. Absolutely. Why does he have that pocket watch, Josh? This is an important question. If it doesn't work, why does he still have it? And if he's a glutton and all he cares about is food, why hasn't he sold that pocket watch to get more alcohol or something? That's a question. I have some ideas that came to my mind, but you guys let me know. What is it about this pocket watch that is so important to this NPC? All right. Fierce Mushroom. Hey, what's up, Fierce? Good to see you, man. Good to see you in the live stream, buddy. I try to go for distinctive voices. So let's give this guy a raspy voice, like an old smoker. All right. All right. So he's got this like raspy voice. He's kind of rotund. He's got this long, stringy hair. So he goes around eating. Maybe he's constantly clearing his throat. So as he's interacting with the NPCs, he's like talking to them. And then every so often, it's like he's got this buildup of you just kind of got to get it out of there. He's got this rasp to it, right? As he's talking with them. So there you go. That hurts, actually, talking like that for too long, so I can't keep doing that for too much. Actually, my evil voices usually tend to hurt a lot too, and so I can't usually do them for very long. But so he has a voice like that, and one of the things I like to do too occasionally for NPCs is practice their voices, like in the mirror, in the car, or something like that. And so that's always good practice as well. A smoking pipe. All right, cool. So he's always got a smoking pipe. All right. I watch a lot of MASH. That's like from the 70s or something, right? The old like war movie. They're all doctors or something. I've seen that a couple times when I was like a kid or something. I don't remember a whole lot about it. It's Jeff Bridges, a movie, 1998. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Cool. It no longer works because a crossbow bolt hit it once, saving his life. He sees it as his lucky charm. That's a perfect idea, dude. I like that. We'll go with that. Nicely done. He started out sounding like him, got pretty different. It was a great show with Alan Alda. I don't know who these people are. Alan Alda is probably someone famous, and I don't know who it is. All right, so we have a pretty good depiction of this guy, this NPC, right? What he looks like, his personality traits. We have a flaw for him. We have a motivation, something he wants to do with his life. And we're already kind of marching through kind of organically a lot of these things in the Dungeon Master Guide. Talents. What is he good at? What is our NPC good at? I mean, we know he's good at eating. He's probably good at drinking. Maybe he doesn't get drunk too easily, but he's got to have some sort of talent, something he's good at. We have mannerisms. I think we have some mannerisms for him. And what are his ideals? Like, there are some things in here on the DMG, like beauty, might, honor, logic, pain, glory. Sometimes when I'm creating characters, I just roll randomly on these charts and just go with what I find. But these charts aren't super long, and so they could kind of be, they won't lend to a whole bunch of variety. Anyway, what are his talents? What do we got over here? Oh, we got some people talking. Let's see what they got to say. He's a skilled chef and barkeep. Yep, that makes sense. He's good at cooking. he's a glutton. He's good at cooking. Absolutely. He's a barkeep. We have an occupation for him. He's a barkeep. There we go. He's got the habit of calling anyone younger one or young fellow. There you go. Interaction trait. He seems to know a lot about a lot of things. As a barkeep, you might know a lot about a lot of different things because you talk to patrons and you're interacting with them all the time. So he might be a source of information, local information. Whenever the PCs need to find, we now have discovered why this NPC exists in the game. He is a source of information. Because he's constantly interacting with patrons and learning things from them, he is a good source of information that the PCs can go to find things out. So anytime they're investigating and trying to find something out, they go to this guy and they talk with him. And now we have a reoccurring NPC with personality that plays a purpose in our game. Awesome. So we got that figured out. I like it. He's been to a lot of parties, so he's picked up gossip. He could be a source of information. Yeah, absolutely. I like it. Good. He picks up odd bits. He picks up bits of information here and there in his carousing. Yeah, absolutely. I like it. He is a professional musician. All right. Let's say, well, we already established that he was a barkeep. So let's say that he was a professional musician until his drinking and eating, caused something to happen where he could no longer be a professional musician. Let's say that he got into a fight with someone once when he was drunk and really messed his hands up. And let's say he played like the lute or something where you really need to be able to like manipulate the strings on the instrument. And so he broke his hand and got him messed up and he could no longer be a musician. So he used to be a musician. And maybe that's something that reoccurringly comes up as he's interacting with players. Well, he'll talk about how he used to be a musician, but he can no longer do it. And then he tells a story about his hands or something. I don't know. So there's an idea for you. I like it. And we just flesh things out like that. It's nice. Princess Carnuda. Oh, come on. Princess K, really? He's a serial killer. Okay, sure. He's a serial killer. Maybe that's his like secret, right? That nobody knows about and that might come up sometime in your game. Princess K is always talking about killing things, man. This is so... I'm starting to become concerned, Princess Canuta, about killing things all the time. honestly. I appreciate that you're one of my patrons and all that stuff, but I have some reservations about this. Arthur says he seems the type who owns the tavern, but does not work there, just gets around and interacts with people around his tavern. Okay, maybe he owns the tavern. He's the owner of the place, but he just likes hanging out with people. We can go with that. He sounds like a pub owner that occasionally sings with his patrons. You guys, if you could role play the dude with the raspy voice singing, like I'm a horrible singer, right? But if you could do that raspy voice, right? And you can sing at the same time, that could be really entertaining at the table. You know, the players might like this guy and want to always go talk to him because they're making their dungeon master do this voice and also sing. And so they're like, let's go talk to that guy because we're going to get the dungeon master to sing again. And especially if you're like me and you're a bad singer, that could be really entertaining for your players. This guy could be really cool. Let's see. He could be, so Josh says he could have a gambling problem. He had his hands messed up by someone. He owes a lot of money. I like it. That's a good reason. So he used to be a musician, but he had a gambling problem. And then he owed people money. And it's the things like, give us the money or we break your fingers type of thing, right? And so he got his fingers broken. Awesome. I like it. So now you have like a backstory that we're developing for this guy, which is all very interesting. I think a lot of times in my experience developing all of these complex backstories is sometimes an exercise in futility because these things may never come up. However, if you know these things and you're prepared with them, they might come up more naturally, right? In the story. A lot of times though, we have NPCs that we don't even have names for. And so it's hard to like get my cat's over here meowing. It's hard to like go in depth with NPCs if we've never thought of these things. But if we thought of these and we have all these things fleshed out, then maybe these things coming to light at the table will just happen more naturally because we're prepared for it. All right. He serves good food and just listens to the customers and thus always has local information. Harvey Firestein. Is that a name? Is that a name for him? We did that like 20 minutes ago. or is that somebody that I should know? Is that like sorry, Elfbait. I'm not sure what that means. This guy would be loved by my group. Yeah. I bet he would, man. I bet lots of groups would like this guy. Yeah. Well, this is cool. So now you guys see now you guys all have an NPC that you can introduce at your next group, at your next session or sometime, really fleshed out with all of this kind of stuff. So, and that's kind of what I was going for here, that we can come up with an NPC together. That's really cool. I have a big pool of assorted backstories to use should the need arise. Awesome. He is a performer with the singing voice you described. Yeah, he could be. Absolutely. I envision him in overalls with the story for everything. Overalls. Oh, yes. So he's got like these big shabby overalls and stuff. That's awesome. That is awesome. All right, guys, we are at the 10 o'clock mark, and I was planning on doing this for a couple hours here. What I want to do here real quick is I think we've talked about this NPC a lot. I don't know if we have anything else we want to talk about this guy. I think we've fleshed this guy out really, really well. We know so much about him, and we know why he's in the game and what we could use him for. So I think that's great. I think we will call it a day on Mr. Arthur Almadine Tarset. That's cool. Now my challenge will be to find a way to use this NPC in my game. And the great thing is now that we've talked about this and thought about this for a half an hour, it feels like this is the sort of thing that I'm not going to forget very easily. And I'll just be able to, on the fly, pull this guy out and use him when I need him. So let's do some questions and answers, guys. Yes, Ted Berger. This is a live feed. Live on YouTube. Yep, you are correct, man. What's going on, Ted? How you doing, man? I was expecting you to be here the whole time. And you're just coming in at the very end of it. Anyway, you guys got questions? Let me know if you got some questions. We will do a last little round of Q&A. And after we get done with Q&A, then I will end this bad boy. And I will get to bed and stuff like that. So I'll give you a few moments to throw some questions down. If you have any questions, it can be questions about Dungeons & Dragons. It can be questions about your games. If you're having an issue or something like that, we can talk about it. It could be a question about whatever, I guess. Just throw something up there. Oh, Fierce Mushroom. Well, I'll tell you what, Fierce Mushroom. There is a very good way to make me not end this live stream, and that is for people to put questions in here, because my official schedule for this live stream has ended. I do have some extra topics, but I'm going to talk about them at a later date. So if you want this live stream to keep on going, then throw some questions on there. I don't want to disappoint you, buddy boy. So let's rock and roll with some questions. Where is the star of your show? The funny pink hair Emmy winner. Will I dye my hair pink or blue? I don't think I'm going to dye my hair. I don't. I could. I dyed my hair back in college once. I dyed it blonde. Yeah, I dyed it blonde, and then I braided it. I grew my hair out like pretty long, and then I had my mom braid it like these little like thin braids about as big as your pinky finger. And so it was like blonde and it was braided and stuff. That was like my sophomore year of college, junior year, something like that. It didn't last too long. The thing with having all of your hair braided is it makes it very difficult to like wash your hair and stuff. And there were lots of these braids. It took my mom like a couple hours to do them all. And I couldn't leave it that way for very long. So I'm not planning on braiding my hair. I might put a little bit of something in there for you there if that's a game showstopper for you. Okay, Fierce Mushroom. Fierce Mushroom says, I'm about to start a new campaign and I have questions. All right, dude, let's go. Put these questions in here, man. Let's keep this live stream going. Get some questions up here and we'll rock and roll, man. Oh, Almadine's got a question. All right, sweet. And then Fierce has got one. Good, we're going to get to that, dude. We will get to your questions. Almadine Dragonfire says, how do you deal with a player that has a high armor class more than 21? I will tell you what I do with a player with an armor class more than 21. Absolutely nothing. He built his character to have a high armor class. He has plate armor. He maybe has some things that give him, higher armor class, maybe a defensive trait or something. He has a shield. Maybe he has a magic item that gives him a high armor class. Let him be awesome with armor class. Let him do it. Let him be the tank. Let him go into the front lines, have things try to beat on him, and be unable to damage him. Absolutely. That's what he built his character for. That's what he built his. And if as the dungeon master, if I were to do things to somehow negate that, right? I don't think that is cool, right? To negate that my player created his character a certain way, and for me to try to nerf it, basically, I don't do that. So if you built you to be a high armor class tank, then that's great. I will have the enemies rush in and they'll start to beat on you and try to hit you. And here's the thing. Not all enemies are stupid, right? So if we're attempting to attack the tank and we're unable to do much damage to the tank because we can't hit him, meanwhile, there are other people in the back lines that are shooting spells at me and arrows that are hurting me, and they look a lot squishier or a lot more vulnerable because they're not in full plate armor. Some of those enemies might peel off and leave that tank alone and go attack some other people. So that's something that you could do, absolutely. Now, if later in the game, what you're going to find is that a high armor class is beneficial, but when you have things like spells that target saving throws and things like that, then that high armor class isn't going to be quite as useful. Obviously, as later in the game, all of your enemies have higher to hit numbers as well, so they'll have an easier time hitting it. But I would resist the urge of trying to do things to circumvent his armor class. Let him live his character out and have fun with it. That's my advice. Because I don't want to poop on your player's parade or something like that, if that makes sense. English is hard late at night. All right, some other people had questions. Let's see. I know Theron says, I just imagined you with super long flowing locks of blonde hair. Yeah, I have some Scottish in me, so my beard is kind of reddish. I don't know if you guys all can see that. I don't think this camera has super high definition, not like my other camera. The camera that I record my videos on is a DSLR. It has much better picture quality, I think, than this little camera I got going on right now. Ted is asking if this is a weekly live stream. So Ted, this live stream is actually going to be every 2 weeks. I'm planning for it right now, and it's going to be on Friday night. Usually my live stream is going to be Friday night, folks. I am doing it today because yesterday I had a game with my youngling group, is what I call them. They're 4 kids. They're about, I want to say they're between 12 and 14. They're somewhere around there. And we get together about once a month, and I run D&D for them. And they have lots of fun. And last night I had a game with them, and so I couldn't do the live stream. So I'm doing it tonight. But yes, every 2 weeks is the plan. On Friday night, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, we'll be doing a live stream. So that is the plan. And you know what's really interesting? Later now in the live stream, I'm getting a lot more people on. I wonder, are some of you from like the Pacific time zone over on the West Coast or something? Because I know for Eastern time, it's like 10 o'clock for me. But if you're on Pacific, you're like 4 hours behind us. So this is like 6 o'clock for you. So I don't know. I don't know if there's some correlation between it being later on a Saturday that there are more folks on. Because I definitely want to do this at a time when more people can participate. So, Fierce said you just got off work. So yeah, maybe people are just getting off work or something like that. But anyway, the plan is on Fridays to do the live stream. I know the last time I did a live stream on Friday, we had 20 people. Anyway, let's stop rambling about stuff and answer people's questions, shall we? Let me see. Fierce has some questions, so I want to make sure I get to Fierce. Fierce Mushroom. Arthur has a question. What's your favorite NPC of a game you GM'd and of a game you just played? I'm going to get to Fierce's question. I'll answer your question in just a second, Arthur. I'll try to get back to you. I don't want to miss you. The last time I did a live stream, I was missing a bunch of questions. Fierce Mushroom. One of my players wants to be from off-world in what would otherwise be a normal 5e game. Ideas on how to work him in. So he's gonna somehow arrive at the world you're running the game in. So how would he get there? If he's on a different planet, then he's got to get to your planet somehow. The most obvious thing that comes to my mind is plane travel. So he might have been on his world and he somehow crossed over into the Feywild, which somehow then may put him back on your planet, or he could have maybe went into the ethereal plane somehow. Maybe he was taken there. Maybe a night hag was gathering souls or something and ended up somehow transporting that player over to the other world or something. I would probably try to use planar travel or something as an explanation of how he got there. That's one way to do it. If he's a magic user, maybe there was a magical mishap, right? Some sort of teleportation spell gone awry or something could have gotten him there. So there's a couple ideas for you. I would also put that explanation on your player. Let your player be the one to explain how he got from off-world to the current world, right? That sort of thing does not have to be on the Dungeon Master. I give my players a lot of leeway in this sort of thing. If it makes sense and it's plausible and it's not like crazy whatever, then I just say, okay, cool. Sounds good to me. It's your backstory. It explains how you got here. I don't really have a problem with you being creative and doing something awesome with it. So there's a question. And then let's see. Arthur's question. Your favorite NPC of a game you GM'd? Oh, Granny Titchwillow. Granny Titchwillow is hands down my favorite NPC of a game I dungeon mastered. And I want to tell you about Granny Titchwillow. But first, I got to take a bio break. Sorry, guys. I'll be right back. All right. Sorry, guys. All right. I was talking about Granny Titchwillow. So Granny Titchwillow was in my Sword Coast card group. And Ted, you know about Granny Titchwillow. You were there for Granny Titchwillow. Ted's one of my players, by the way. Ted Berger. He's in my Sword Coast card group. And we're playing tomorrow, actually. Some cool stuff is going to go down tomorrow in the Sword Coast Guard, Ted. You do not want to miss tomorrow's game, dude. It's going to be so much fun. But Granny Titchwillow, she was a old lady that the players ran into. And she had this cottage out in the woods or out in the wilderness or something. And she talked a little bit like this. Yes, please. Come on in. Come in. Come in. Let me make you some tea. Yes, yes. Sit, sit, sit. And then Granny Titchwillow went to these. I had her going. She was making tea for them, and she was grabbing like herbs and stuff off from like the ceiling. And Granny Titchwillow was an anise hag. Anise hag? Was she an anise hag? Yes, she was an anise hag. And Granny Titchwillow was basically using the players to further her own ends in the region. I think it's an anise hag. Yeah. It was. And the players were like doing things for her. Okay. They went and killed a bunch of good people to get her sister's body back, who ended up being a hag herself. Okay. She was going to resurrect her and her sister and stuff. The players were going and doing horrible things to a certain extent because of Granny Titchwillow. And then in the end, they found out that Granny Titchwillow was bad, and they ended up going and confronting her and defeating her. But I totally had these guys jumping to Granny Titchwillow's song or something, and she was just an amazing NPC. I loved role playing her. I think one of the reasons that she was awesome is the voice I gave her and stuff. I know it was lots of fun. So Granny Titchwillow is the one of the best NPCs I remember playing and stuff. Fierce Mushroom. I got that one already. Check the math. All right, Elfbait. I will check the math. I don't know what the context of that is. Outer space. Yeah, if he's from outer space, I think my answer still is applicable. Fierce Mushroom. Yes, absolutely. As far as the armor class issue and hitting an high armor class, eventually people are going to hit them. It happens. Trying to work my chat here, guys. It's kind of hard. It's jumping all over the place on me. Arthur says we're back on the high armor class question. If you balance enemies that hit him, let me find a new question. I'm trying to find questions. Yes, absolutely. A lot of what you guys are saying is absolutely factual about hitting that high armor class character. In higher levels, monsters have higher to hit numbers, and so it makes it easier to hit them. The campaign is kind of March of the Muldrin-esque. I don't know what that is. Sorry. Oh, here's a question. 4 Elemental. Question. Do you think the challenge rating system is broken? I'm looking at you, Basilisk. Dude, you asked that same question in the last live stream, man. Exactly the same question. And I'm going to give you the exact same answer. Yes, it's broken. It's broken at like first, second level because monsters that shouldn't be as hard as the math makes them seem are actually really lethal. And then once you get around 8th level and beyond, the challenge rating system is totally broken. At that point, it's a guessing game, depending upon your players. And this is from the experience. I have run games all the way up. One of my campaigns right now is at level 12. They're all level 12 or 13. And the other one they're all level 20 now. So they've gone all the way from 0 to 20. And so I have experienced the full spectrum of how challenge rating works at various levels. And that's not necessarily to say that my experience will fit everybody else's experience. I have certain little homebrew stuff that I've done in my game that makes things a little different. Not a whole lot, though. I do not use a whole lot of homebrew. Most of my stuff is by the rules out of the book. But there you go. I answered your question for the second time for Elemental. Oh, you know what? For Elemental, I bet you that you asked that question last time, but then you had to leave or something before I gave the answer. So if that's the case, I hope tonight you got the answer, man. All right. Let's see if we got some more questions here. I'm getting hungry now. See, I've been drinking all this water and stuff. Now I'm getting hungry. Mi morcito, ¿me puedes traer algo para comer? Galletas o algo así, por favor. I just put in an order with my wife. See if she brings me something. Because I think she's watching the live stream. Let me see. Is it possible to get your DM drunk enough to drop in a deck of many things? Yes. Josh, that's an inside thing with Ted, my player. He wants me to put a deck of many things in the game. No Four Locos, though. That stuff was horrible. I hated that. I mean, it tasted good, but man, that stuff was messed up. Never bring that again. Oh, sweet. Josh says the camera I'm mailing you is 1080. So the camera I'm using right now, I borrowed from a friend, and it's supposed to be 1082. This is I don't know what it is, but it says 1080p right on the front of it. But I don't know. It's possible I have to fiddle with settings or something. I don't know. I'm not very good at like the live stream webcam crap. So, people are still saying when. Fierce Mushroom says also one of the central NPC characters is True Neutral, Licham. Okay. Paul is out in California. Awesome, Paul. Elfbait, I'm looking for questions, more questions, because here's the thing. I'm getting tired, but as long as I have questions and I'm answering questions and I'm helping you guys, then I'm happy to continue doing this. But if we peter out and I have no questions to answer and I have nothing to say, then we'll end this. So the fate of the live stream is in your hands. Chair stream. Uh-oh. I think my order is arriving. You guys all just heard the door opening, and then feet are coming down the stairs. So I think, yes. Thank you. Gracias, Marcito. All right. I have snacks that have arrived. Now the thing is that I can't really eat and talk at the same time, so I don't know how well it's gonna work for me to eat at the same time as I live stream. I don't think you could do that. Anyway, we're all about breaking the rules around here. Where's the cat when you need them? It's a nice chair. Hamster's bladder. What? Yes, Ted, Granny Titchwillow. Weak bladder, hamster's bladder, chair stream. You know, it's funny. Every time I have to go and run upstairs and come back down, I always expect everybody to leave or something and be like, oh, I guess the live stream's over with. But y'all just kind of stick around and watch the chair. This might be a normal thing for live streams. I don't know. One of my cats was hanging out with me on the back of the chair earlier today, but he hasn't showed up yet. Yeah, Josh, I would love to have you on my games, man. That would be so sweet. If you are ever in the Michigan area, you let me know, dude, because you will be in one of my games. We'll have you as a guest in one of my games, dude. Totally. I've never done a game over the internet ever in my life. I should do that one time. Actually, one of my tiers over on my Patreon page is to be in a game online with me. So nobody signed up for that yet because it's a big time commitment to run a game. Lots of time to DM, prep, and run a game and stuff like that. But that's one of my tiers over there. I'm not suggesting you do that. You, Josh, anytime you are in the Michigan area, you're in one of my games, dude. So you let me know. Let's see. Questions. I'm looking for questions. Bathing in innocence blood. What? 4 elemental. That's okay, buddy. All right. Ted says he's gonna get me drunk enough to get you don't have to get me drunk to give you a deck of many things, dude. Just $100 bills. Arthur says most love NPC of my table is Giacomo, a hippie who gets everyone partying in every occasion possible, and Damon, his brutish friend who gets everyone protections his sacred duty. Cool. All right, Fierce Mushroom's driving home. All right, man. What is the monster you really want to use in a game, and how would you use it? Oh, all right, cool. Monster that I want to use in a game. How would I use it? So I'm thinking like high-level monsters, a Kraken or the Tarrasque, right?
the Tarrasque. There's one of them, you know, and how would you use them? Man, those are really cool. Demons and devil. I've been using demons and devils. I think the Kraken is cool. Oh, an aboleth. An aboleth. I totally want to use an aboleth. I've never used an aboleth before. And I think the reason that I haven't used an aboleth is that it seems complicated to me. Like, the whole thing with an aboleth is that it's like a mind control-y type thing, and it has like tons of minions and a lair and stuff. And I would use an aboleth underwater for sure, so that the players would have to somehow figure out a way to get water breathing reliably enough, which is an easy spell. I think it lasts for 8 hours or something, but it'd be underwater for sure. And the aboleth would have lots of minions, a massive layer full of minions that it has like brainwashed and controlled over time. And I wouldn't want the players to know what they were actually going up against. It would need to be totally hidden that it was an aboleth. They have no idea that that's what it is. They think it's something else. And that allows you to do like a grand reveal at the end that's, oh my gosh, it's an aboleth. The thing with an aboleth, though, is I think it's only a CR10 creature, so it's not super powerful. You could actually introduce an aboleth to probably level 6 characters or something, because 4 or 5 level 6 characters could probably take on an aboleth, I'm guessing. So I think the answer to that question is an aboleth. And I think I answered most of that stuff. Lair, lots of different minions, hide who it is. That would be lots of fun. I need to make an adventure with an aboleth. Yeah, there we go. That's what I gotta do. I gotta do that. That sounds really fun. Let me see. My question. So Fierce Mushroom had a question. My question is, do you ever use the Moldrons, sentient D&D robots? I haven't used them. I've read about them. They're the ones that live in that one plane that's all like law. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I believe that Morning Canaan's Tome of Foes has some more of them, Mordrons or Modrons or whatever they're called. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've never used them. I think I've never used them because they're like lawful and I think they're good. So they're not like typical enemies, you know, that you would put. Most of my groups all the players are good players, or they're good characters, and so they're not. Moldrons are not like, I don't know the exact pronunciation of that. I'm just pronouncing it how you wrote it, man. But I don't think that. I think the way to do it though is perhaps something has corrupted them, or something has reprogrammed them, or something has tricked them into thinking that the law is different than it normally was. And so the Maldrons or Moldrons or whatever are doing evil things. They're following the law as they understand it, but they're doing evil things as a consequence. And therefore they would, become an enemy in the game that the PCs would come up against. And that introduces the interesting idea too of the enemies aren't really bad. The enemies are somehow deceived or doing something that they ordinarily wouldn't do. And so there's a little bit of a moral quandary for the players. They would have to decide, do we kill these things, or do we somehow try to undo whatever is corrupting them? And I would have that all fleshed out and know exactly what the backstory is of these things so that the players have that choice and they can choose either way. So that's how I would do that. Good question. Am I fluent in Spanish? Yes, I am. I am fluent in Spanish. I studied Spanish when I was in college and became okay at it. And then I moved down to Central America, down in Honduras. I was down there for 4 years. I was a missionary at a school. A church had a school down there, and I was a school teacher. I taught English and math and a whole bunch of other stuff. And so I was down there for 4 years, and that's where I met my wife, Irene, and I took her home with me. I put her in the suitcase. You're coming with me. And that's how I got much better at Spanish. And my wife and I speak in Spanish all the time. She yells at me because she wants me to speak in English for her. And I just it's just easy for me to speak in Spanish. So yeah, I'm fluent in Spanish. He can kill off Nigel. Nobody's ever going to kill Nigel. Ted, no one will ever kill Nigel. All right. It's not going to happen. Nigel, because the moment Nigel gets in trouble, he turns invisible and hides and then crawls away. There's going to be like a TPK where everybody dies and Nigel comes out of it because he goes invisible and crawls away. We know this, right? All right. Josh says, question, is there a magical item that you see as extremely overpowered? There is one. I got all this food that I'm not eating because I'm talking all the time. I'll have to do that at some point. Where is that magic item? It's like there is one, a weapon of warning, or I'm not gonna look it up. It'll take me too long. But there is a weapon that is supposedly uncommon or common. It's not a very powerful weapon, supposedly, but it's a weapon that basically makes it so that you can never be surprised. And I think that it makes it so that those around you can never be surprised. And I think that's powerful, right? That negates a lot of combat encounters. That negates a lot of situations. There's a lot of things the DM might otherwise do that he can no longer do because you have this weapon. And that they rank it as like uncommon or common, it just seems like, no, that's not a very good ranking. I think that's a lot. Having that ability of not being surprised is a lot more powerful than you think, because surprise basically means that the enemies get an entire round of attacks on you where you can't do anything. And so taking away that possibility is fairly powerful, in my opinion. So I think that is far more powerful than the book lists as, in my opinion. All right. Modrons. There you go. Thanks, Elfbait, for pointing that out. Modrons. Arthur says, I don't know 5e that much. In 4e, we have artifacts, powerful items that have influence in the character behavior, like the One Ring, and I love them. Yeah, 5th edition has artifacts. Absolutely. It has a handful of them already fleshed out in the end of the weapons, in the end of the magical section of the DMG. So it definitely has artifacts. This is something I need to do. Even in my level 20 game, I have not introduced artifacts into the game, and I need to do that. There's some really cool artifacts like the Hand of Vecna. And I think there's like an Eye of Vecna. You actually have to gouge out your own eye to put it in the socket. And I think there are different parts of Vecna too. And that if you get all of them, stuff happens. I think it's a dangerous thing too for you. It gives you power, but there are consequences to it. So I need to use artifacts in my game. I don't know why I haven't. I think part of the thing is that characters are already super powerful in 5th edition. So powerful weapons and magical stuff just makes them more powerful, which means I have to like level up and make the encounters and stuff more challenging, but whatever. That's life. That's fun. All right. Corrupted by the discs. Yes, Nigel is definitely corrupted. It wasn't the discs, Ted. It was the candy. It was 100% the candy that Nigel has been eating. Oh, here's a question from Malradrin. Keep the questions coming, guys. The live stream will continue until there are no questions. Did I just make a promise? All right. Almadrin. You've been here like the whole time, Almadrin. That's awesome, dude. Thanks for that. That's cool. This is either more interesting or I'm more entertaining than I thought or something. I don't know. Whatever. Races with winged and flying variants seem extremely overpowered to me. Yes. The very, very beginning of this live stream, I talked about that. Super overpowered. Is there creative ways of dealing with this without nerfing the character? There are. The first part of this live stream was kind of my rant that to deal with the root problem, which is the wings and stuff. But let's talk about how to deal with that. Because I don't know that I totally talked about that, and you probably weren't here for that. So let's answer that question for you. There are lots of reasons in the game that everything is a dungeon. I like to think of everything as a dungeon. Wait, is that the right train of thought? No, that's a different train of thought. There are lots of reasons that adventures should take place indoors. I think that's another reason. That's what I'm going. Indoor adventures. Indoor adventures solve lots of problems. It's not really problems, but they have lots of advantages. So your wizard. How far can a wizard cast fireball? I think it's like 300 feet. Okay. So imagine if you're outdoors and there are orcs approaching and your wizard can see them from 300 feet away and cast a fireball. Boom. And they approach a little bit more. Fireball. Boom. He can just decimate entire hordes of orcs with fireball. Now, same wizards, same orcs indoors. The party opens a door. There are a bunch of orcs. Yes, the wizard's probably going to get one fireball off. But if that doesn't finish them all off, then you have a different dynamic. The orcs are coming out and they have an actual fight that goes on, right? So indoors changes that. There is I heard somebody once talk about a warlock who could get a familiar who is like a little like imp familiar. And if the warlock were like a gnome, the warlock is small enough as a gnome that the imp familiar could carry the warlock flying, and the warlock could then use Eldritch Blast. And let's say he uses that invocation where it doubles the range of Eldritch Blast, and he can shoot Eldritch Blast from like 300 feet away or something. The little imp and the warlock could fly 300 feet above things, just beaming down Eldritch Blast and killing everything, right? And so flying, so if it's an outdoor adventure, you have that problem. If you put everything indoors, that problem largely disappears, because let's assume that like a typical corridor is about 10 feet high ceilings. Flying doesn't get you out of the enemy's reach. In a larger room, you might have a little bit higher ceiling. It might be 20 feet high or something like that, right? I think the biggest thing that is going to help keep winged characters under control is having things happen indoors, where there are ceilings, where there are controlled distances. And it doesn't just apply to winged characters. It applies to other things in the game. You know, it just helps to keep things indoors, and it solves a lot of things that might come up, in my opinion. That is the number one thing that's going to help you with winged characters, so that you can still allow your characters to have wings and stuff, but it's not totally out of control. Now, if you have something that always happens outdoors or like on the water, let's say they're all like, it's a water-based thing and they're able to fly and stuff, then yeah, you're going to be way out of control. And you'd have to do things that I don't think are smart. Like most of your monsters have wings themselves and can fly, right? Which pretty much invalidates and nerfs the idea of your players to have winged characters, because now all you're throwing at them are enemies that have wings, right? And so that's not really necessarily a good solution either, you know? So wings are definitely overpowered, especially at level 1. My rule in my groups is that there is one character per group that can have wings, right? And that balances things out, in my opinion. It's a limiting choice. Yes, it is. But if you allow everybody to have wings, you have a whole bunch of other problems to deal with, in my opinion. And you have to balance player freedom with the fact that we have a game that needs to be run, and there are certain things that it presupposes. For instance, most of this book here, the monsters don't have wings, right? And so if everybody can fly, then I can't use 80% of these monsters unless I come up with shenanigans to get around that. So there, I hope that's helpful. Who asked that question? I don't know. I don't remember. Sorry. Oh, it only alerts you. So Ted's talking about that magic weapon, that it only alerts you, not your party. That makes it a little more balanced then. That makes it a lot more balanced then. Theron. A way to logically nerf the magic item that constantly alerts the players is to have it be overprotective. It reacts to even minor threats. I like that idea, because that becomes like a role-playing thing. You know, the magical weapon is telling you that something is wrong, and everybody gets all like nervous and paranoid, right? And then it turns out to be like a raccoon that's trying to steal your rations from your sleeping roll or something like that. I like that idea. I need to take a bite of a banana, guys. My like stomach's hungry. And then while I read stuff here, I'm going to chew it. So Elfbait says flying creatures are sitting ducks for missile attacks. Yes. You can't fly in dungeons and are going to hate life when they are knocked unconscious or bound in flight. Absolutely. Or if you're knocked prone, or if your movement speed is brought down to 0 while you're in the air. So yeah, there are lots of horrors for flying. Lots of horrors if you're way up high flying and then something happens and you plummet down. Lots of damage that can be dealt to you. I totally agree with that. Modrons could be corrupted by then. How do you deal with dragon-born breath weapons? I'll tell you how I deal with dragon-born breath weapons. I kill characters with them. I do my best. The dragon's breath weapon is like 120 feet or 90 feet, depending on which one it is. And the dragon strafes, it's flying, 90 feet or 120 feet above the group, and it breathes a cone, which means that a 120 foot long cone is 120 feet in diameter, which means that everybody in the group get hit by that cone as it flies overhead. And the dragon flies off, right? He gets his breath weapon back, and then he strafes over them again, breathing on everybody. And then he flies off, right? This is a problem. Dragons are nasty if they're played correctly. The dragon swoops down. It grabs one player. It carries that, not player, it grabs one PC. It carries that PC off high into the air, drops him a mile or two away, comes back down, strafes with the breath weapon. You see what I'm getting at? If there's a swamp, it dives into the swamp, swims around, pops back up. Dragons are nasty if they're played correctly. However, if you put a dragon in a small cavern where it can't fly effectively and the players can just surround it and beat on it with sticks, then it might die quickly, you know? So there is a good way to play dragons to make them super nasty. And then there's a way to play them where they're not as impressive as they might otherwise be. But that's how I deal with dragon breath weapons. I have them kill characters. We had a nasty dragon a couple weeks ago in my Manus Invictus group. It was really cool. How to deal? The Dragonborn breath weapons are not that powerful. Dragonborn. Oh, you were talking about Dragonborn breath weapons. Oh, I'm answering the wrong question. Dragonborn breath weapons. Yeah, Dragonborn breath weapons are not a problem. I mean, they're just not powerful. The DC for them, I think, is pretty low, and they don't do a whole lot of damage. At level 1, super low levels, it might be a thing where it's like doing a decent amount of damage, but like later on, I don't see it as a big deal. All right, Josh, see you later, man. Heading to bed. Thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate it. All right. Arthur says, let them burn people, mushroom. They are there for that. Yeah, absolutely. Let them burn people. All right, guys, I'm getting to the end of this, and there are no more questions, which means I'm about to end this whole live stream thing, which is cool because it's almost 11 o'clock, and we've been going for about 3 hours now. So it's probably about time to head this off. The 4E Dragonborn breath weapon is very powerful. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, 5th edition, it's much more balanced. Absolutely. Magic item danger, spider crawls off front of the table. Yep. He meant the player race. Look, yeah, I got it. I'm a little behind. I read one sentence and I went $100 for the deck of many things. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Damage a wing so it can't fly. That's actually, Ted, in the game, a Manus Invictus group, that's exactly what one of the players was doing. He was targeting, whenever the dragon landed, he was targeting a wing to try to break a wing out. And so I had that dragon take right back off again and start flying around because they did a lot of damage to his wing and almost took him down. So, yeah. All right, guys, we are petering out here, and it's almost 11 o'clock, and I want to get to bed. So that probably means that we're going to end this. Thanks a lot, everybody, for coming out to the live stream. We're going to do this again in a couple of weeks. 2 weeks from now on a Friday is the current plan. So hope you guys can make it again. I hope you found this useful. I answered some questions and whatnot. Oh, you just got home. All right, Fierce. You got one more question, man. One more question. I'll answer it for you because you are fierce. And then we're going to end it. So can you send an email out about what? Oh, about the live stream? Yeah, I can email you about that, dude. That's not a problem. Blasting your live stream? Come on, Fierce. I'm waiting for a question, buddy. If you ask me a question and get me talking, then I will keep this going. But you need to type on your phone, man. Let's go. And while we're waiting, somebody else joined. It went up to 9. It went from 8 to 9. Somebody else joined. And they left. They saw me eating a banana, and they're like, this live stream is stupid. All right, Almadine. We'll see you later, buddy. Thanks a lot. Thanks for joining us. All right, Fierce. At this point, everybody is just staring at my face. as we wait for you to ask a question. No pressure, man. Okay, Ted asks a question. How can I kill Nigel? I can't kill Nigel, man. You're his son. How are you going to kill your father, man? So we can move to Ravenloft. You guys will go to Ravenloft, but the current campaign, the idea, it'll probably take you to roughly level 20 before we're ready to go to Ravenloft. All right, so Fierce has got our question. Here we go. Here's our last question for the night, ladies and gentlemen. Fierce asks, so a true neutral lich is the central NPC for my campaign. True neutral. Okay, got it. Suggestions on keeping the players from killing him. All right. I once had a lich in one of my games, and he wasn't an evil lich, and the players didn't kill him. First of all, I think the players recognized that it was a lich and that he was super powerful. And what level are your players? Like, what level are their characters? Okay, I got a problem. My cat is walking by my power strip. My cats have touched my power strip before and turned everything off. So I'm gonna make sure he doesn't do that. What level are your characters, man? Nigel is immortal. Nigel is immortal. Nobody can kill Nigel. He gets lucky. Even when we had a TPK, Nigel was running a backup character, and so Nigel's player was running a backup character, and so Nigel didn't even die. his backup character died. The best way to not have him attack the lich is just to present the lich as a helpful person that is helping them, giving them advice, giving them information and stuff. You might have the lich use magic to disguise himself, so that they don't know that he's a lich. You know, maybe the lich speaks through intermediaries. He has people that work for him, trusted associates that he speaks through. So the players will never even really know who he is or what he is. If you think your players are the type that are going to like kill him on the spot once they think he's a lich, then you might have to do that. But the other thing about a lich is that liches are super powerful. So unless your players are like super high level, they're not going to kill a lich. They're going to attack him and they're going to get their butts handed to them, right? And if the lich is true neutral and he has motivations where he wants the players to do things for him, then he wouldn't necessarily kill them on the spot. He might teach them a lesson that I'm way beyond your pay grade, so don't mess with me. But then he might say, now that I've spared your lives for you all morons trying to kill me, you need to do this, that, and the other for me. So there's some options for you. I don't know what level your players are, what level their characters are, but if they're not super high level, then a lich is going to clean them up. Yeah, they're level 1. Don't worry about it. I won't worry about it. You know, if they're starting out at level 1 and a lich is the main NPC, I wouldn't reveal that it's a lich. I would make it some sort of mysterious benefactor, that's just helping them throughout the game, and they might play this mysterious benefactor NPC is like helping them and giving them missions, and they're working to help this person out throughout the game. And then this could happen throughout the entire campaign. And then at a certain point in the game, you might reveal to them that it's a lich that's been doing this the whole time. And that could be a really cool, like, grand reveal for your game as well. So I would consider that, like, hiding the identity on purpose for like dramatic effect in your game. All right. Yes. See, Ted's on the same page with me. Don't let them know it's a lich. There you go. Lord Paxton. He could be. Oh, you don't want to know what Lord Paxton is. Do not want to know what Lord Paxton is. The day you guys meet Lord Paxton, whoo, it's going to be a fun day. Fun day. All right, guys. I'm going to call it a day. It's almost 11 o'clock. I hooked Fierce up with his last answer. I hope that was useful, Fierce. I hope you guys can all join us next time. I got to get out of here. I got to get some sleep and stuff like that. I really appreciate you all hanging out with me. This has been a lot of fun. I hope this was helpful for you all. You guys rock. We'll see you in the lair on a different day. Later.